CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, PNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Welcome to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, a weekly, proudly liberal perspective on the news, squaring the facts, mocking the crazies, and correcting the record so that we can all think before we vote. Here's some of the things that happened this past week. In Florida, federal judge K. Michael Moore ruled Tuesday that students cannot be charged a higher out-of-state tuition simply because their parents are undocumented citizens. Students in Florida are U.S. citizens and residents, and Judge Moore ruled that it is officially unconstitutional for the students to be charged higher tuition rates. Similar cases have been won in Colorado, California, and New Jersey, and we're happy to report that it has also been the case in Florida. The state of Florida has not yet announced whether it's going to appeal the decision. We'll have to wait and see.
So this case is about?
The case is about students being charged higher out-of-state tuition rates simply because their parents are undocumented immigrants.
Okay, so they've met all the other requirements for in-state tuition.
Yes.
Other than the fact that their parents were born somewhere else.
Correct.
So they're raising a higher. They're being treated unequally.
Exactly why Judge K. Michael Moore. Sorry, have to repeat the name. I love that his name is Michael Moore.
He could be a judge. Michael Moore could be a judge.
He ruled that it's unconstitutional to discriminate against these students simply because of their parents.
That pesky 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. I'm glad to hear it.
Absolutely. Same here. CBS News reports that in Louisiana, the officials have restricted fishing in waters across 13 miles of shoreline because tar balls and tar mats have found to be present on Louisiana beaches. Basically, the oil showed up since the area was struck by Hurricane Isaac, and officials have closed the fishing season. Wildlife and Fisheries Department reports that at least one large tar mat is covering a beach in Louisiana, and representatives for Governor Bobby Jindal state several others have been found. They are doing further testing to see if the oil is related to the BP 2010 Gulf oil disaster. Many believe that it will be linked, but we'll have to wait for the official comment on the subject. Oil company representatives have already released statements saying it's too early to determine whether or not the oil is related to the BP spill.
But why would they say anything else? Then they might have some more liability.
Exactly. And it'll prove that those cleanup efforts that they said that they did so well, as many people indicated at the time, basically they just poured sand over the oil. The storm has since probably washed much of that away, leaving large tar mats.
It kind of reminds me of that movie Big Daddy with Adam Sandler. Whenever the kid peed in the bed, he just put newspaper over it.
Pretty much.
That was their. And they spent lots of money on commercials, though.
Yes, they did. I wonder what benefits the Louisiana residents could have if that money was actually spent on cleanup.
A lot of that money was absorbed by the government, I believe, not actually paid to the people down in the Gulf.
Yeah. Louisiana Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority Director Garrett Graves says they haven't scientifically linked the petroleum to the BP spill, but he's pretty certain that they will. He was quoted saying, "It's impossible to say at this point with 100% certainty, but I can sit here and confidently say with 99% certainty that that's exactly what it is. In some of the areas where we've previously found things like tar balls, tar mats, and other impacts, and so it appears to be sort of weathered in a manner that would be consistent with the Deepwater Horizon spill." So it looks like BP's mess was not really cleaned up as many people thought
you
was the
still
case.
turn over sand on Santa Monica Beach. There's oil there. Up where the Exxon Valdez, there's still oil there.
Pretty much.
We know how this stuff does not break down. Remember, it was Rush Limbaugh said, "Oh, the ocean produces it naturally; it'll absorb it naturally." My friends.
Yes, and many people are already trying to make that claim right now, saying that it's typical for hurricanes in the Gulf to uncover or stir up oil that naturally exists on the seabed.
Have they ever made Italian dressing? Think about it.
Yeah. Just
Oil on the bottom, you shake it. How'd the oil get on the bottom? That's what we want to know.
Exactly. And
that's the issue.
And the case will be that they'll be able to scientifically prove that this oil is related to the spill.
It's oil from something else?
That's what BP is trying to claim.
From where?
Who
else blew a giant freaking oil rig in the middle of the Gulf?
Well, there
are lots of little ones, but...
Yep.
So, what do we have to tag all the oil now?
Yeah, apparently we need those little radio frequency ID tags in each droplet of oil so that we can know exactly where it came from.
Brother. Well, I'm sure chemically they can figure it out.
Yeah.
And then they can have one, a set of specialists and scientists for one side and the other side, and they can argue it out for about, 2 decades.
Right, and
meanwhile,
waste more of that BP money that should be going to victims of the Gulf spill.
Right. Or cleaning it up.
Exactly.
The right way. If there is I think the problem is there isn't a right way.
No.
They figured out
there absolutely isn't a right way.
So, therefore, then we'd have to rethink the policy of drilling like that, which we thought we were going to have that discussion, but obviously is going full steam ahead.
No, and with, the DNC convention and Clint Eastwood's big appearance at the RNC, most people haven't even heard this news that the oil is back on the beaches.
Wow.
Yeah,
and, we have heard some about energy policy last week.
We certainly have. We're going to get into that
we are?
Tonight,
okay.
yes.
Okay. I should read the notes.
Yeah, you should read the notes. Mm-hmm. At approximately 8:42 local time, a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake shook Costa Rica and other areas of Central America this morning. So far, officials say that there is only one reported death, but many homes have collapsed, and there are mudslides closing roads and other areas. There was a tsunami alert issued for the region earlier, but it has since been called off. The quake occurred in a seismically active zone where Pacific tectonic plate is driving beneath Central America. Daniel McNamara of the U.S. Geological Survey stated that all along the Pacific coast of Central America, you can expect these fairly large quakes. The quake was fairly deep, 25 miles below the surface, which typically leads to less destruction, but a more widespread feeling of the rumble. We're just happy that most people appear to be safe, and that we hope there aren't any more deaths reported.
Costa Rica is an interesting country in that there's a very, very rich area, and then most of it's very, very poor. In fact, I have a cousin who worked at the Peace Corps down there. So mudslides are a big, scary deal. Well, and you can if it's far enough away, there are probably more deaths than that. So
I just hope with the news of how many homes collapsed that they don't find more people injured or possibly killed.
Right.
Last week at the Republican National Convention, Clint Eastwood improvised a skit featuring an empty chair that represented President Obama. Apparently, that skit left as much of an impression as Mitt Romney's speech, and possibly more. A Pew Research study released yesterday indicated that 20% of people polled cited Eastwood as the highlight of the convention, while only 17% cited Romney's speech. Even among Republicans, 25% cited Romney as the highlight of the convention, and 19% cited Eastwood. The funniest part for this show's perspective, at least, is that according to that same Pew Research study, 20%, equally matched with the highest number, which was Clint Eastwood's speech, cited the highlight as no highlight / it's over.
Really?
Yes.
Who did this poll?
Pew Research.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
According to the National Journal, Mitt Romney's campaign has been running misleading robocalls that assert Obama is raiding $716 billion from Medicare. Of course, we've all heard that speech on the campaign's trail. It was first rolled out by Paul Ryan, and it was cited as one of the biggest lies in his quote-unquote truth-challenged speech at the convention. PolitiFact, as well as many Democrats, point out that the $716 billion Obama takes from Medicare is actually savings, and it's projected to extend the life of Medicare. In response to the claim, the Romney campaign has issued a statement saying Barack Obama cut $716 billion from Medicare to pay for Obamacare. President Obama has said it's true, his campaign has admitted it's true, and news sources report that it's true. The effect of this will be felt by directly by beneficiaries, not simply providers and insurers, because that's how the real world works. It is already a known fact that Obama's savings in Medicare will not change services provided and simply force doctors and insurance companies to reform and improve their practices.
The same services will be provided. In fact, more services will be provided. It's just the means by which they are provided, whether it's through an insurance company or through the government-run part of it. What was it? Medicare Advantage was one of those chip away at the benefit things Republicans tried to do to privatize Medicare long ago. So they would just do this. We'll take away some of the services, but you insurance companies, you can provide those services and you can do it directly. We're just saying, no, you can't do that anymore. That chip away for privatization of Medicare can't be done. We'll do it at a higher percentage rate of benefits versus cost. And you guys are going to take a little bit less money. No services are going to be less. And the fact they say they've admitted it and it's true and it's a fact, they're just repeating the lie. That's what they do. They repeat it.
Yes. Well, and a lot of people are familiar with the closing of the Medicare quote-unquote donut hole,
sure,
which is part of that savings.
Part D. It's
also, the taking private insurers out of the Medicare process.
Right.
But when they talk about the reform for doctors and providers, they're talking about increasing the quality of the initial care so that Medicare patients don't have to constantly go back to the hospital to be treated for the same reason they were admitted. They're basically saying, do it right the first time and ensure the patient is healthy when they leave so that Medicare isn't billed for that second stay. It will basically force doctors and hospitals to be more responsible for patient care, something they should be doing already.
Right.
In a New York Times report yesterday, it looks like Republicans asking the question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago, aren't getting the responses they quite expected. In a Twitter campaign, Republicans have been using the hashtag #AreYouBetterOff to solicit answers from American voters. Some results were, of course, expected, like a few quoted here, resounding no. Before O took office, I had a job, gas was less, and so was food. Or here's another. Let's see, bankruptcy earlier this year, cars gone, house in foreclosure, job uncertain, I say no, Obama. Of course, they got some of those typical responses, which they touted as the average response. However,
but those are true responses, and that has happened. And
absolutely. However, they got a lot more positive responses than they expected. Some of my favorites that I pulled from this New York Times article. Yes, my 401k had lost 50% of its value in 2008 when the Dow dropped to 6,443. It has since rebounded and gained. Dow now at 13,000. Another one, I'd like to see Romney and Ryan's assets from 2008, compare them to today. Are they better off?
Nice.
Yes.
I would love to see that. Great point.
And my personal favorite to the response, hashtag are you better off? No. Signed, Osama bin Laden. So since Romney's making the case that by electing him and supporting his 5-point plan to create 12 million jobs, that Americans will be better off, we're going to review those points and see what we think about Romney's plan to create the same number of jobs that are projected to be created if nothing changes. Many people out there have heard Romney's 5-point plan or witnessed it in his speech. He has 5 points: North American energy independence by 2020, school voucher programs, free trade agreements, cutting the deficit and balancing the budget, and cutting taxes and regulations and repealing Obamacare. Shane, you had a few thoughts on those 5 points, didn't you?
I did. It seems that they bunched a lot into 3 and 4, or 4 and 5.
Yes, they did.
But you have to decipher each one of them on their own.
Which we're going to do.
The first one.
North American energy independence by 2020.
All right. The idea that North America can be energy independent with an oil and a fossil fuel mentality is impossible.
It's inherently false.
It cannot be done unless we no longer trade those things upon which we get our fuel, our energy, fossil fuel. on the open markets. If we stop trading them, I guess then we could be. So essentially, we would have to get in a trade war. We have to say we're not going to sell our oil. And by the way, our oil, according to that, means Mexico's, United States, and Canada. So we have to have 3 countries have to get together, form what essentially would be a lot like, let me think, the Middle East's. We'd have to have a cartel for our oil to keep it in our area that we could control the price of, where it's consumed, where it's shipped to.
Right. Essentially, they would have to enact protectionist policy to take our oil out of the global market.
I'm not against protectionist policy.
I'm not either, but it hasn't been something Republicans typically stood for. And I also thought it was very interesting that this used to constantly be American energy independence. But since they're advocating for the Keystone Pipeline, which essentially is Canadian oil, they've changed their talking point to be North American independence. It's simply a replay of Drill Baby Drill, which was unpopular the first time. They may be able to tweak the wording here or try and convince people that this is a new idea, but it didn't work then, and people aren't going to buy it now. It'll simply lead to more pollution, more environmental disasters, and more money in the pockets of big oil. As far as his second point, school vouchers, there is absolutely no credible evidence that school vouchers improve student achievement. In fact, 2 studies by Bush's own Department of Education proved the opposite. Simply another way for governments to privatize services and bust unions. It doesn't put low-income students in the reach of good public schools because the school vouchers typically don't cover the full cost of those good private schools.
It sucks money out of the public education system and puts it into private.
Absolutely.
You're privatizing.
It's another way
School vouchers saying we're going to privatize schools.
It's another way to drown government to the size that shrink government to the size that you can drown it in a bathtub.
The funny thing is they don't want to cut money to education. They just want to suck it out.
Right. That's the funny point to me is how does this create jobs?
It doesn't.
How does this save the taxpayer money?
It doesn't.
Exactly. Yet this is part of Romney's great 5-point plan.
Yeah, 12. Don't give him too much credit here. And the thing about these 5 points is that we have to actually go through and decipher them this way, and we're doing it very quickly. He had a very long speech. He spent he rattled these off within a matter of I think a minute and a half or so. No explanation, pretty much an etch a sketch. You can draw on it what you want. It's just a basic outline. Because if they say anything too specific, their policies would be so incredibly unpopular they would be lucky to win one state.
Exactly. And these private schools, many of them popping up recently to take advantage of the money coming from school vouchers, aren't held to the same standards as private school. They will tout, Republicans will swear that they are, but schools have to have a minimum of 40 students in testing grades in order to be held to the same standard as a public school, and so many of them just don't enroll that many students.
Or they pick and choose which students they enroll.
Right, of course.
So, if someone has some kind of challenge, lots of us have had learning problems, different hurdles we've had to go over at different points in our life. We've cleared them and turned out to pretty smart people. It isn't, there are different, dyslexia is one of them. Something that you can learn to deal with and become a great reader and a very intelligent person. But they're not going to take people like that because it might screw up their scores and therefore their business plan for being incredibly successful and incredibly profitable.
Well, all they have to do is just not enroll enough students in testing grades. You're not even tested at every grade. So all they have to do is limit the number in specific grades. Yeah,
but what are they going to do? They're going to just skip grades. They're going to just kick out half the class when they get to a certain grade.
Why not? There's no regulation that says they can't.
But that's not a good business practice. Remember, they're thinking from a business point of view.
Regardless, many states are enacting them, and one of them is being touted in Louisiana as the biggest expansion of school voucher programs in U.S. history.
And they've done a lot of school vouchers here in D.C. Because, D.C. doesn't have any representation. There were a little right-wing petri dish here where they can do whatever they want. So they've been really pushing that here in D.C.
Yeah. We've got to cover 2 more of these. We're going to do it right after a quick break. But before we leave for a moment here, I do want to remind everybody of our great guests we have coming up tonight. Mike Papantonio, host of Ring of Fire Radio with Sam Cedar and Robert Kennedy Jr. We have Tina Dupuy giving us a live report from the DNC. We have Mikel Weisser, the now official candidate for Congress in Arizona's 4th District, at least from everything I can find. And Kymone Freeman, the founder, director, and co-owner of WeAct Radio and host of Speak Easy with Kymone Freeman and Ron Pinchback. It's going to be a really great show, so hopefully everybody sticks around for all 3 hours. We'll be right back here on Talking Left right after this break.
Whoa! Awesome! Totally awesome! All right!
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Are you living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiostations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiostations.com. Be sure to like Left-Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiostations.com. United we stand.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from bradblog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of bradblog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK, and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
How do you impart upon somebody the disconnect or what's otherwise known as hypocrisy that people have, that they deny themselves from? You know, they live in denial and live in the illusion.
You can't tell somebody they're wrong. They have to see it themselves.
Yeah, they have to discover for themselves how to think that way. So how do you plant the inception?
Filter-free radio, Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or not, and filterfreeradio.com.
Arr, mateys. Welcome to the ocean. I've sailed the 7 seas 100 times and found something I like even more than me treasure. 'Tis the ocean, beautiful and clear. Right now I be sailing over the Great Barrier Reef. It just shivers me timbers thinking of all the fish and coral below me. Wait, what's that floating by? A plastic bag? By Blackbeard's eye patch, that's disgusting. Why did you know that many of these things come from folks throwing them carelessly on the ground? It be true. Lend us a hand by always recycling and disposing of your trash properly. Boys, get the plank ready. Somebody's got to dive in and get that bag. Any volunteers? Cannons. All right, fine. I'll do it myself. Cannonball! Find out what you can do to help keep the oceans healthy at keepoceansclean.org. Brought to you by the Keep Oceans Clean Alliance and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left. Before the break, we were covering Romney's 5-point plan to create 12 million jobs in America. The funniest point of which is that 12 million jobs will already be created if nothing changes.
Wow, high hopes there.
Yeah, he's really shooting for the
I promise
stars.
to do exactly what would happen even if I didn't get elected.
But when
I promise to do absolutely nothing whatsoever to change the course of history.
Right, but when uninformed voters hear 12 million jobs, they think that's a great thing. They think that's a huge success. And basically, he set himself up not to fail. Where if he was to be elected...
Come on. Republicans are the kings of low bars.
Yes, but...
Sarah Palin, George Bush.
If any
Please,
policy...
if they can get through something without barfing on themselves, they're considered heroes.
If anything he was able to do created just one extra job, then, hey, he is exceeded expectations.
Wow.
Right.
I'm the dullest man in the world, so if I can crack a smile, I've got a great personality. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Should we expect more?
So we already covered 3 out of those 5 points on his plan: North American energy independence, school voucher programs, and free trade agreements. We did cover free trade agreements, didn't we?
No.
Oh, we got so lost in the first 2. Well, we've got a lot to cover in this short segment because we can't be late for our first guest.
We'll have to cover it almost as fast as Mitt Romney does.
Exactly.
Which is not at all. Just rattle them off.
So
and have everyone cheer in
then.
between. Grin with a pompous look on your face. Have everyone applaud. Move to the next one.
Exactly.
It's called the RNC speech.
Point 3, new free trade agreements. Romney is going to enact new free trade agreements, or so he says. So more American jobs can be shipped overseas.
And they're going to love negotiating new free trade agreements as soon as we tell them that North American oil is only ours.
Yeah. That's definitely going to make every country want to buddy up with us.
And because free trade agreements, essentially, that translates into suppressing labor.
Right. It's continuing the race to the bottom, suppressing American wages because they have to compete with low-cost labor in third-world countries. So that's great. That's definitely what more of Americans want. And it still doesn't answer the question of how he's going to create more American jobs. Yes, we'll be able to buy cheaper products from other countries, but without tariffs...
Yeah, but we won't be able to afford them because the wages will be driven down.
Not only that, but what are we exporting? He's not going to increase manufacturing. He's not going to,
Which, by the way, that's another thing how we're better off than 4 years ago. For the first time since the 90s, where manufacturing jobs are coming back here in the United States. Woo!
So his 4th point, cut the deficit and balance the budget.
Oh, wow, that's a 3-hour show.
Yeah, that's a 3-hour show right there. But his main premise is that he's going to cut $500 billion per year from the budget by 2016, which would bring spending below the level, below 20% of the federal budget. But he shares no details on how he plans to do this. At the same time, he promises to increase military spending, put the $700 billion back into Medicare, and repeal Obamacare, which is actually projected to save the taxpayer money. All of these would make the deficit higher without factoring in Obama's policies or intended policies, but he still doesn't explain anything on how he's going to do it. Last, cut taxes, regulation, and repeal Obamacare. This is something we're going to be getting into detail with our next guest.
That's like the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost for Republicans.
Exactly. Mike Papantonio. He knows a thing or two about regulations. So stick around. We're going to have Mike Papantonio explain to us the difference between risk and uncertainty. Republicans seem to love risk and risk takers, but they're scared of all this uncertainty in the market. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and this is Talking Left.
Happy Labor Day! And what a good day it is. For only 5 years after that ugly Wall Street collapse, the Dow Jones average has soared back above 13,000 and top executive paychecks are at zippity-doo-dah levels. The only little cloud over this otherwise sunshiny recovery is, well, you people for whom Labor Day is named, that is. Not only did Wall Street's crash knock jobs, wages, benefits, home ownership, and middle-class opportunities into the ditch, but they're still stuck there, and even sinking lower. Yet the financial elites, political establishment, and media powers remain rapturously focused on the Dow, uncaring about the precipitous decline in the Doug Jones average. If Doug and Donna aren't prospering, neither is America, no matter how much wealth the privileged ones are socking away in offshore tax havens. The stark status of the Doug is revealed in a recent report on laid-off workers. Of the 6.1 million Americans who lost stable jobs since 2009, when the recovery officially began, nearly half are still out of work. Also, more than half of those who did find jobs had their pay cut, whacking their standard of living. Typical of these is Andrew McMenemy, whose software firm pulled the plug on his $80,000 a year high-tech job in 2010. He has finally found another job, but it pays under $20,000 a year with no benefits. At 53 years of age, McMenemy has had to move in with his father. This is Jim Hightower saying, knocking down the middle class is economically stupid, socially dangerous, and morally wrong. Labor Day is a good time to face up to the fact that today's corporate and political leaders are wretchedly bad gardeners. By tending to the moneyed elites and ignoring America's workaday majority, they're watering the weeds and pulling the flowers. Where in the world is that going to lead us?
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. Protests around the nation against Mr. 1% and the economy he would bring to working America were timed to coincide with the day Mitt Romney accepted the GOP nomination to run for president. Stand Up Chicago's Elizabeth Parisian was among the activists, workers, clergy people, and students who protested at Republican headquarters in Chicago.
The jobs that Romney doesn't outsource are, the wages are going down, people are getting fewer and fewer hours, no benefits. And our message is that a Romney economy doesn't work for working families. It's not good for America. And so we're coming out across the country to deliver that exact message. We don't want a Romney economy.
The protests against a Romney economy oppose his model of so-called economic success, outsourcing, tax breaks for the rich, while increasing the tax burden of the middle class, the destruction of popular social safety net programs like Medicare and Social Security, and the low-road, minimum-wage jobs that are the signature of many Bain Capital-owned companies. Armand Greer is a server and bartender earning $4.95 an hour plus tips in Illinois.
I see the economic plan that Romney and Ryan are pushing out there, and there's nothing in there that actually benefits the working and middle class. If you're definitely for the working and middle classes and you want a fair livable wage for everyone in this country and not just profits for the 1%, come November, vote for the person that is vested in your interest.
Nissan workers in Canton, Mississippi are interested in getting a real voice at work by joining the United Auto Workers. An effort has been underway for months there to bring the 3,000 workers employed at that plant into the UAW. Rafael Martinez is a pro-union Nissan worker who says the organizing effort is going well, despite an effort by Nissan management to disparage the union and intimidate workers into being anti-union.
This is important because we need to have a voice in what goes on. This is not us against them, but it's how we can work better together. We would just like to have a voice. We would like to have the opportunity to decide for ourselves whether to have a union or not. When we think of terms about why we need a union, it's the kind of hours that we work on the weekend. If we work Saturday, we got to be there at 4:30. We don't get out to 2:12 in the morning. Just about 2 weeks ago, we had a fellow employee that on his way back home fell asleep at the wheel and died.
Martinez says Nissan workers in Canton, Mississippi haven't had a raise in nearly 5 years and have seen their health care benefits erode. The UAW wants Nissan to agree to a set of fair representation principles before any union election is held so workers get a truly fair shot at deciding whether or not to join the UAW.
If the election is not going to be fair, we don't want it. But we are encouraging the fact that, we are making strides. We are moving ahead. Things are looking real good. We feel good about what we're doing, and we feel very, very confident about our chances.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
Hey, Dad, how do you throw a curveball? How do you build a fort? How do refrigerators run? How do fish learn how to swim?
Kids ask a lot of questions.
How high can you jump?
But you don't have to know every answer.
How many phone numbers are there?
Because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
How do cell phones work?
There are thousands of children in foster care who don't need every question answered.
What's electricity?
They just need you.
What's the moon made of?
For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left. We are very excited about our next guest, Mike Papantonio, host of nationally syndicated show Ring of Fire Radio with Robert F. Kennedy and Sam Cedar, which is live Saturdays, 3 to 6 p.m. and rebroadcast, I think, nearly every day of the week. Mike, are you able to hear us okay?
I can. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. This is Shane here. Thanks.
Mike is, of course, the president of the National Trial Lawyer Association and senior partner at one of the largest plaintiffs' law firms in America. Mike Papantonio, commonly affectionately called Pap. I hope it's okay if we call you that here as well.
That's fine. That's what everybody calls me.
Well, before we got you on, we were discussing Romney's quote-unquote 5-point plan to save America. And one of the major components of that plan is cutting regulation on business. And you have such a great history on fighting deregulation and explaining to the American public why it's important. How do we convince the American voters that cutting these regulations won't help the economy?
Well, you know, it's more than just a fight. The regulation is just a part of the fight. That's kind of the code word for no government. The fight really is about trying to convince the American public the government is bad and private industry is good. You know, the best example was the response of kind of the neocon right. 13 years ago, actually longer than about 15 years ago, well, you had 13 people killed in Minneapolis. I don't know if you remember the bridge collapse.
Yeah.
Because our government couldn't spend the money on critical repairs. Before that happened, 12 years ago, almost the same event took place just in the state right next to it. But before that, New Orleans was destroyed, and you had 1,500 people killed because there was no money available from the federal government to fix the levees surrounding the city. We handled that case, too. And in fact, the entire system of maintaining America's infrastructure in the last 8 years has been referred to as patch and pray. Now, the reason this ties in exactly what you're talking about here is they dress it up as if this is only about regulations. Gee, we just want government off your back. No, they just don't want government. They want government to be replaced by private industry. And these are the same people that, you know, bankrupt the auto industry, the same people that we remember from the Enron energy industry disaster, the savings and loan meltdown, the airline industry bankruptcies, the Wall Street mortgage breakdown, the tech bubble meltdown. These are the people that saying we can do it better. You don't need government. It's not that you don't just need regulations. That's just a small part of it. The attack really is much broader. It is to say we can do better. We're the smart guys. We're the guys up here on Wall Street that can do better, even though history time and time shows, again, that they can't do it. That when government's not involved, you have people killed in places like Minneapolis. You have, you have New Orleans levees destroyed because there's not enough tax money, because what we've tried to do is neutralize. These people have tried to neutralize the effect of government.
Absolutely.
So the regulation part is only a part of the argument. Obviously, if you deregulate things like the American, the FDA, if you deregulate the FDA, you cut staff, you create an environment where it's a swinging door. Somebody working from the FDA knows they're going to get a job with Merck or Pfizer if they toe the line. That's typically the situation. That's how they're going at regulation. It's been taking place really for 20 years. We're hearing it now because it's more about we want to do away with government. But they've always been involved in the deregulation process where they've taken possession of the agency. We handled, for example, we're handling the BP case here on the coast. We're one of the 4 firms handling that, and our part of it is to figure out what went wrong, what happened there. Well, what they did is they started the deregulation process by buying off everybody in charge, by putting people in positions that worked for the industry, that was responsible to the industry, not to people, not to government. And so that's how they've deregulated. They've deregulated by neutering the effectiveness of the agency, whether it's OSHA, whether it's OSHA, whether it's FDA, whether it's FFA, whatever. We've seen the deregulation process take place by them possessing that entity.
Absolutely, and they do this all in the means of trying to claim that it's somehow going to create jobs, which I'm trying to figure out how we convince those fondly term low information voters, that the deregulation doesn't create jobs, that it in fact hurts them, it hurts, the country as a whole, and it just exposes us to so many more problems like everything you just listed off there.
Well, unfortunately, it's not something you can explain that easily. When you're talking about voters who buy into something like this, they already start with the attitude. It's not that they're low information. It's that they have a low tolerance of thinking outside what they've been fed for so long. So, I mean, some people say, yeah, you can sit down with that person, you can artfully and tactfully show them that they're wrong about assuming that government's bad, that regulations are bad. You really can't do that. The only thing that works is when it's their family, you see. When their child has taken a pharmaceutical that has made them blind, or their wife has used a product that has crippled her, or their family is there in front of you. I can't tell you the number of times where you'll have these very teabag types coming in front of you day after day. That's tragic stories, and they wonder, well, why is it? How did this happen? How did the FDA let this happen?
Yeah, but at the same time, they'll complain to get your government hands off my Medicare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They'll be the first ones to say government's bad. We don't need regulations. And when it's their family sitting in front of you that's lost their sight or is paralyzed from the neck down because of some corporate bad act, the first question is, why didn't somebody do something about this? But you see, this has been developed over a long period of time.
Right.
This has taken decades to develop this concept that government is bad. In private industry, the Wall Street smart boys can do better. The very people who brought us the Wall Street meltdown, they can do better. But, you'd love to say you can sit down with somebody and intelligently talk about it and explain it to them, but unless it hits their home, and I've seen it 30 years of doing this, unless they're the person that's affected by it, you just can't get through, because it's one of those easy to sell red meat issues that they're selling exactly to people that you'd expect to buy.
Absolutely. Another point we definitely wanted to get your brilliant opinion on is something we keep hearing by not just Romney, but we've heard from the GOP for so long. They constantly commend risk takers. They say that, business it grows because of those who are willing to go and take the risk. Yet at the same time, we're hearing that the reason job growth hasn't improved, the reason the economy isn't better, is because of uncertainty in the market as they say, caused by Obamacare.
Yeah, well, the story. The backstory on that is that right now you have the American corporations and banks holding more than $3 trillion out of our economy. They do that by design. The idea of saying first of all that we have an economy that's dysfunctional, that nobody's investing in the economy. They're the ones not investing. The very banks that we bailed out. You remember we sat down with the banks. Obama sat down with the banks. He said, listen, you need to understand we're with you, but in order for us to be with you, you have to reinvest into the American market. So what's the first thing they did? The first thing they did was held onto the money.
Right.
And so that's part of the issue. Anytime you tie up $3 trillion, anytime you have 100 corporations that can tie up $3 trillion and stop the growth of this economy, it makes it easy for a guy like Mitt Romney to say, you see, people aren't investing into jobs. Regulations are stopping the investment of jobs. They're stopping the expansion of the economy. But really what's happening is it is completely by design. If you remove $3 trillion, $4 trillion from the economy, and understand you had Wall Street that at one point removed $13 trillion from the economy with fraud. And we're just now catching up with that fraud.
Absolutely. And then, when their buddies, the Republicans, get into office, theoretically, there would be a flood of jobs because them just releasing that capital and actually allowing, starting to hire again. And it really sways the picture.
Well, it's really no different. There was a time when we had Americans held prisoner in Iran Jimmy Carter was running for president. Ronald Reagan was running against him. And you had the Republicans convince the Iranian government to keep our American citizens hostage longer so Ronald Reagan could win. I mean, that's not myth. It's not urban legend. They know that happened. This is no different. In this situation, the entire American population is being held prisoner. We're being held hostage by about 100 corporations that say we have all the money and by damn we'll do what we want to, and if we want to invest in the government, we will, but we won't do it unless you elect Mitt Romney. We won't do it unless you elect somebody who is a total puppet, somebody that we can make demands with, somebody that we know will follow those demands. We're not going to invest. And so we expect to see this. There's only so long they can hold out. If Obama can win, and he should win this election, if he can win, you can't hold on to that money much longer. They certainly can't hold on to it another 4 years.
Well, I certainly hope that that's the case, and we hope that Obama wins. Just on a personal note, I just recently moved from Florida to D.C., and when living there, I constantly witnessed you and your firm out fighting for the victims of the BP oil spill. That was definitely something that meant the world to me, and I know it meant the world to many people down in that state and along the Gulf Coast. Is there any new developments in the case or any more hope that BP is actually going to pay and help these victims of the disaster?
Well, it appears that they are. I would say, we're making claims. We've made huge numbers of claims. We're going to give them a little more leash. If they don't, then they've lost their opportunity to settle this amicably. But I think you asked, is there the new business and the new things we're learning is that this is a criminal corporation. I've always said it was, but when you start seeing the documents and when you start understanding that these are people that should have been perp-walked, and they're not just the people that made the decisions on the rig, but the people who made the decisions not to do the inspections because we wanted to command the regulatory process. I know you know the stories. The stories were outrageous. We had the Mineral and Mine group that was actually such a captive of the industry that they were having, they were flying these people all over the country having parties, and, there were the stories of drugs and sex and all types of things being given to these people who are supposed to be regulators, and they were commanding the control of that regulatory agency even 10 years before this occurred. So what we're learning now is that our theory about what was happening behind closed doors when Dick Cheney had his secret energy meetings in 2000 with the energy industry, he was making promises. And one promise he was telling people like BP is, I promise you we will not regulate you. I promise you our agencies won't get in the way of you doing business in this country. That's what we're finding out in black and white these days.
And it sounds like that's what we're being told will be the solution to everything by Romney and his whole group. Thank you so much, Mike, for taking time for us. It's an honor to speak with you, and again, for all that work in the Gulf. There was definitely a big personal thank you from me and family and friends down there in Florida. I want to remind everybody to catch Mike Papantonio tomorrow night on The Big Picture, and of course, check out his show. Saturdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, ringofireradio.com, at Ring of Fire Radio on Twitter. Thank you so much, Pap.
Thank you for including me tonight.
Absolutely. It's an honor.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, Mike Papantonio.
Isn't he nice?
He is so nice.
He gets fiery. That's what I love
nobody says it quite like him.
Yeah, but, it's not rude. It's not even abrupt. It's just fiery with so much passion and knowledge. A great spokesman for the progressive cause.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy checking him out whenever he is on. When he fills in for Ed, when he fills in for Tom Hartman, when he's on Tom and on Ed, and a lot of MSNBC hits, and of course Ring of Fire Radio.
And you can catch his show almost any time if you go to ringofireradio.com/stations. It's not only live 3 to 6 on Saturdays, it's rebroadcast nearly every day of the week at nearly any time. So if you've got a computer and an interest to listen, you can find him somewhere. We've got a lot of great show left in store, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be speaking with Tina Dupuy, Mikel Weisser, and Kymone Freeman. It's going to be a great night. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano.
A beautiful place full of wonderful things just waiting to be experienced.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not?
Radio or Not.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
Never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Bill Maher, you're here in Miami on Friday night. You're doing a show at the Fillmore at the Jackie Gleason Theater. They just renamed this theater the Fillmore. And they put up a couple of psychedelic posters. So I guess...
Was it the theater Jackie did his TV show from?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
What I hear they did is put up 2 of those old Bill Graham posters and renamed it.
Yeah, I can't think of 2 different icons of show business.
Yeah, really.
Bill Graham and Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, why they just didn't play up the Jackie Gleason aspect, I don't know. But then again, this is South Florida.
Right. Okay.
Welcome to it.
I feel warned.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at RadioOrNot.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than Ken.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
You know that the ice cream scoop has the power to make a child smile, and that by slowing us down, the traffic light can keep us going. You know that the golf tee brings friends together, that the mailbox keeps them connected. You know that the cataract laser helps you look to the future, while the pacemaker ensures that there's a future to be seen. You know that the lawnmower, the clothes dryer, and the elevator make life easier, that the blood bank makes life possible. You know that these things we count on every day started as ideas. But did you know all these ideas came from the minds of African Americans? Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Please visit uncf.org or call 1-800-332-UNCF. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
He believes that when you've worked hard and done well and walked through that doorway of opportunity, you do not slam it shut behind you. No, you reach back and you give other folks the same chances that help you succeed.
Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. What an awesome speech by our First Lady. I don't know about everybody listening, but damn, that made me proud to be an American.
That was an amazing speech, and I have been very down, very cynical, very upset in terms of what's going on, in terms of voter suppression, the money in politics, the lies and the rhetoric coming out of the right. But that really put me I was in a lousy mood. You dealt with me last night. And after that speech, I mean, really, she so eloquently pointed out what Democrats are about, really what progressives are about.
Absolutely. And she managed to really hit on the issues that needed to be, pointed out about the Republican Party and Romney's speech and Ryan's lying.
Without calling them out once.
Without being rude or nasty or, as the Fox calls the Democrats, hateful and divisive.
She merely put it in terms of what we stand for.
Absolutely.
And what they stand for, they're very clear on what they stand for, which is pretty much the opposite.
Absolutely, they are clear on what they stand for. We heard even recently, USA Today reported on August 23rd that Republicans are still vowing to block any deal on January 1st's looming automatic tax increases and budget cuts. And this is despite last month's CBO report that predicted another major recession if these changes, the tax increases and the budget cuts, are allowed to occur. Republicans are continuing to insist that they'll hold 98% of the Americans hostage just to get the tax breaks for their rich buddies. It's just, there's not even any dispute in it. They're simply perfectly okay with allowing the American country as a whole to suffer just to benefit the people who are already well off. Do this. They're doing this at the same time. They're going around the country asking people, are you better off? Well, with values like that in office, a lot of people aren't getting the opportunity to be better off.
Right, but it's very similar to what Pat was talking about in the last segment in terms of holding things hostage.
Right.
We have big business doing it in terms of cash. Cash equals the possibility to create a business, and they do it politically. Of government being able to accomplish anything, they hold everything hostage. So everyone will say government is bad, and the one person who is the head of the government, he must be bad. And it doesn't matter if the policy is a good one or a bad one. If it's going to help Republicans and hurt Democrats, that's what they're going to do. They made it very clear on January 20th, 2009. And boy, that's the one promise they have certainly kept as Republicans.
Yeah, absolutely.
That their main goal, not that they're going to be able to do it, that their main goal
is to ensure Obama is a one-term president.
And the only reason they're talking this way is in order to influence the election in the fall.
It's not only that, but it also influences the financial markets. We saw before the looming debt crisis.
But that's what I mean. I mean, if they can make things just that little bit worse in between now and November.
They're doing it on purpose.
Right. We can just sabotage just a little more. We still have some more sabotaging to do.
They don't give a damn about the American people, yet they're the ones sitting around asking, are you better off? Well, statistically speaking, a lot of people can say that they're better off. And we're going to get into that in the next segment. But the real question, when we see actions like that from Republicans, is why don't people feel better off? Why don't the American people know they're better off? Why aren't they actually better off? We're going to get into that, go through a few details right when we get back. Stick around. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano.
It's Thursday, August 30th, 2012.
I woke up, it was fine. Next minute, it was just like all over the place. Everything underwater, everything.
This wasn't supposed to be a Katrina. It's turning out for the East Bank to be as bad, if not worse.
Flooding, evacuations, and levee breaching as Tropical Storm Isaac moves inland. But too little too late for Midwest farmers, and as House Republicans cut weather monitoring agencies. Hip deep in rhetoric at the Republican National Convention, plus...
Will this be a country that keeps moving away from foreign oil and towards renewable sources of energy like wind and solar and biofuels?
President Obama uses the C word.
All of that and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Oh, the speeches, the pageantry, the fun. It was like Christmas morning if Santa kept all the gifts for himself and filled stockings with clean coal.
Yeah, I've been watching that Republican National Convention, too. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Des, some very exciting news as we go to air today. Of course, you know that BP has a great interest in the Gulf Coast
Indeed.
and in Louisiana. And the good news is that after the oil company made $7.7 billion in profit in the fourth quarter of 2011 and $6 billion in profit in the first quarter of this year, it has decided to donate to relief costs from Hurricane Isaac. They will be donating $1 million.
Ooh, a whole $1 million.
That's right. Very, very thoughtful of them.
Indeed. Well, Hurricane Isaac has weakened into a tropical storm again as it moves inland, still packing relentless rain and flooding and spawning a few tornadoes. President Obama has declared federal emergencies for Louisiana and Mississippi, releasing federal funds. And Louisiana's Republican Governor Bobby Jindal warned the danger is not over yet.
We're going to continue to see the weather effects of the storm, especially as it moves to the northern part of our state. On the east bank in Plaquemines Parish, there was overtopping near Braithwaite at a non-federal levee. They are considering actually doing a breach intentionally to release water.
And as we go to airtime, it appears that they will be breaching that levee to release some of that pressure. So far, it appears that the $14 billion in post-Katrina infrastructure repairs and upgrades to that federal levee system have held up to this first major test. In 2005, 1,800 people died in the flooding after the levees failed in Katrina. With Isaac, only 2 fatalities have been reported so far, but hundreds did have to be rescued from their rooftops and attics in flooded areas outside New Orleans.
Which is a point I should add that Breitbart.com's editor-in-chief, Mike Flynn, told me last night on Twitter he thought it was hysterical.
That's funny?
Well, he was watching Weather Channel and thought that they were making a lot out of nothing, despite the fact that hundreds and hundreds of homes were flooded out from this storm.
Unbelievable.
Breitbart.
In Mississippi on Thursday morning, officials ordered an immediate evacuation of residents near a dam on the Mississippi-Louisiana border as a precaution due to fears of a potential dam failure due to Isaac's relentless rainfall. Now, on the plus side, Tropical Storm Isaac is forecast to deliver much-needed rain to the parched Midwest, but that heavy rain may severely impact what's left of the U.S. corn and soy crops that are already decimated by this summer's record drought. While the Gulf Coast is getting hammered by Isaac, just want to point out that the Republican House majority partying in Tampa all week voted for severe cuts to our weather monitoring agencies, nearly $500 million from the National Weather Service and nearly $1 billion from FEMA. And House Republicans are proposing even deeper cuts in the lame duck session after the election.
Lame indeed.
Speaking of the Republican National Convention in Tampa, the rhetoric is flowing hip deep and keeping the fact checkers very busy. But unlike the 2008 convention, the party of climate science denial has been curiously low-key this time around on energy policy. So far, no chance of drill, baby, drill, perhaps because the majority of Americans support federal clean energy investment over oil, and the GOP does not.
Also, absolutely no talk of climate change and global warming after the hottest summer on record in the history of the U.S.
Yeah, they've only had a handful of pot shots at the Obama administration, like this jab from Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell.
And now the EPA is the Employment Prevention Agency.
Of course, McDonnell is lying. The actual data shows that new pollution controls at power plants, for example, create tens of thousands more domestic jobs than are lost by federal regulations. Finally, one politician this week did mention the C word, climate change. Out of nowhere, President Obama, at a campaign speech at Iowa State University this week, said the forbidden words.
The decisions we make as a country on big issues like the economy and jobs and taxes and education and energy and war and climate change, all these decisions will directly affect your life.
Wow, climate change. Haven't heard the president mention that word either for a very long time.
Yep.
For much more on the stories we couldn't get to today, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. While you're there, please consider a donation to help sponsor the Green News Report so we can keep telling the truth over your public airwaves. Follow us on Twitter at Green News Report and find us and like us on the Facebook. From bradblog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Great guests still in store for you guys tonight. Mikel Weisser, Democratic candidate for Congress in Arizona's 4th District. Tina Dupuy, editor-in-chief of The Contributor. And Kymone Freeman, co-owner, radio director, and much
really
more.
Nice guy.
Yes, program director of WeAct Radio and host of Speak Easy with Kymone Freeman and Ron Pinchback.
And Tina's going to be calling right from Charlotte.
Yes, live update from the DNC.
Yeah.
We're very jealous that we're not there with her.
I was just checking out the enemy. I actually consider them the enemy, Fox News. Bill O'Reilly, I was reading his little talking points as he blunders along trying to read a teleprompter. It's hard to see how independents will be swayed at all by what's going on in Charlotte. And President Obama should be embarrassed that Sandra Fluke is going to be speaking there.
Shouldn't the Republicans be embarrassed by an old crazy man talking to an empty chair?
Leave McCain out of this.
Not to mention...
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean
shouldn't
Clint Eastwood.
Even more than that, because, hey, at least Clint Eastwood tried to give a performance, whatever we thought of it. Paul Ryan stood up there and knowingly lied over and over and over again. I think that's something Republicans should be embarrassed about.
Yeah, and there was a bit of a rebuttal last night.
Yes.
How hard you work matters more than how much you make. That helping others means more than just getting ahead yourself. We learned about honesty and integrity.
Talking
that the
to you,
truth
Ryan.
matters.
That the truth matters.
It does matter. Absolutely. I have a very, very strong saying that Shane will say I live by. Never lie, because the truth will always come out. No matter how good you think you are, no matter how slick or smart, it doesn't matter. The truth will always come out.
I'm just concerned it will come out sometime after November 6th.
Unfortunately, in politics, that may be the case.
It usually takes a very long time.
Right. Well, the Republicans, including those two, are constantly going around asking, are you better off? Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Are you better off than you were when Obama took office? Now, as Democrats, we like to hold the president accountable and say that we didn't get everything we were promised. We'll be the first ones in line to admit that long before the Republicans ever get there. However, in being factually accurate, we'll also admit that in many ways, we are better off. In the last 4 months of 2008, 1.9 million job losses. That's the last 4 months. So that's the same quarter we just entered. In January of 2009, 779,000 job losses. This far in 2012, job growth has averaged 151,000 per month, about the same monthly average throughout 2011. No, it's not where we need to be at 300,000, 400,000 jobs being created monthly, but it's sure not in the negative. So far under Obama, it's estimated that there are 4.3 million new private sector jobs, according to Think Progress. And that's since 2010, October of 2010. I'd say that's a hell of a lot better off. The housing market. In the last quarter of 2008, home values dropped 9.7%, according to Reuters. 9.7 in a quarter. That's insane. As of August 28th, this year, 2012, the AP reports that home prices had shown consistent gains for 12 months and that prices rose in every single city that they measured. Again, are they back to 2008 bubble values? No. But the market had to reset. It shouldn't have been allowed to get to that point anyway. I'd say home prices going up as opposed to losing 9.7% is better off. And this doesn't even get into don't ask, don't tell, Osama bin Laden being killed, Obamacare, and so much more. The Lilly Ledbetter Act. There's lots of ways we're better off, but we as Democrats like to continue to ask for more because we know we're capable of it as a country. We know that our president is capable of it, and hopefully if he gets a second term, we'll get some somewhere. We'll make some progress. We'll move forward. But the question that Republicans keep asking, are you better off? I think the question should be, why don't you feel better off? Why don't you feel the impact of the improvements that I just told you about? Could it be that the Republicans themselves have made things harder? Just a few of the bills Republicans have blocked that would have actually helped the average American. June 25th, 2010, Bloomberg reports Republicans block extension of unemployment benefits. July 2010, Washington Monthly reports Republicans block small business aid. March of 2011, CNN reports the House ends Obama's Home Affordable Modification Act that would have helped keep homeowners in their homes and allow them to write down or reorganize their mortgage payments. November of 2011, Financial Times reports Republicans block $60 billion infrastructure project. You think that would have put some people to work? February of 2012, CBS reports GOP win in debt ceiling compromise that cut unemployment benefits from 99 weeks to 73 weeks. I'm sure that probably didn't help the average unemployed person. June 5th, 2012, Senate Republicans block the Equal Pay Act. July 7th, 2012, Politicus reports Republicans cut Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP, to any American that owns a car. And that was in a Farm Bill compromise. July 19th, 2012, Reuters reports Senate Republicans block Bring Jobs Home bill that would have given a 20% tax credit to anybody who any company that brought jobs home from overseas, and it would have ended tax breaks for companies that export our jobs to other countries. They blocked that, yet they're for American values. July 29th, 2012, Republicans block assistance for homeless veterans. Wow. So why don't Americans feel better off?
Well, they could have felt better off than they feel now. And
right.
I know your question is why don't they feel better off? I think in a way the question more is do you feel better than you did? Are things better than they were 4 years ago? And I think people are more answering, are things good enough for you now?
Right.
Have things moved along enough? Are you well off now? And well off not being, the quote unquote well off, like someone who's very rich, but have things come to a level where you're not fighting every paycheck to cover bills. You're not worried about getting thrown out of an apartment or making choices between food and medicine and things like that. So while we can objectively measure how things are overall better, when it comes to how it impacts every person's life, the impact hasn't been great enough to make people feel secure and comfortable. And they may even be comparing it more to, are you as well off as you were, or are things better than or as good as the 90s? Right. Because I really believe that people, we can list all these things off that are different.
Yeah, these are just a few. Just to show that from 2010 to now.
But we also have to remember where we were in 2008. Think Progress did a great little blog post. They just pulled a bunch of headlines from 4 years ago this week.
Right.
For example, from New York Daily News, stock shock felt round the world gets nasty as Lehman tanks, Merrill vanishes, AIG wobbles.
Wow.
Politico, will Bush become a new Hoover? Referring, of course, to Herbert Hoover. Wall Street meltdown continues, CNN. Depression seen possible, Florida News Press. Behind closed doors, warnings of calamity, the New York Times. A Great Depression closer than U.S. admits, report finds. That's a Pittsburgh Tribune Review. It's easy to forget how we had Hank Paulson saying we are teetering on the end of complete economic collapse. When you compare it to that, yes.
We're definitely better off.
We are better off.
Well, I think there's also an aspect of this argument that Republicans are constantly saying all Democrats do is blame Bush. And there is some truth in that statement. Obviously, we could see just from the headlines you just read, Shane, that there is some blame to be placed there. However, this list of bills clearly indicates
George Bush was not in Congress then.
Right. The Democrats can stop that argument. We can address the truth in the matter. We could say, hey, there was a really big problem when Obama took office. But the real problem now is that there are people actively trying to not let this country move forward, actively trying to prevent the economy from getting better because it means Obama might get a second term.
So they're actually deflecting.
Absolutely.
But we're talking about policies that haven't worked. They're saying, well, you're blaming Bush. No, actually, we're blaming you.
I'm blaming them.
And the policies.
I'm blaming them. The policies they have enacted.
And they actually don't really have a policy other than making Obama a one-term president.
And making abortion illegal.
Yeah, they worked a lot on that one.
Yeah. So far this year, what have we seen them work on? The 33 times they've tried to repeal Obamacare and some abortion legislation.
But
how many jobs are in that?
Michelle Obama had a response.
He believes that women are more than capable of making our own choices about our bodies and our health care.
I think
that was so mean and nasty.
I know. So divisive.
That gutter politics by that first lady.
In fact, the Romney campaign had a response on that. Did you hear?
Was it, oh, crap? Oh, no.
I think
I give up.
That was Romney's response behind closed doors. No,
it's a good thing we're not running against her.
I think they probably thought all of those things, but the official comment from the campaign...
Remember the New Yorker cover. Remember the New Yorker cover. Remember the New Yorker cover.
The official comment from the campaign was, on the first night of President Obama's convention, not a single speaker uttered the words, Americans are better off than we were 4 years ago.
Yes, they did, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, the Maryland governor went through an entire segment of his speech.
Well, maybe that's because they were watching the Fox coverage, which we commented when, Shane and I always go back and forth between, MSNBC and Fox to see what's going on each one.
World.
Exactly.
Bizarro world.
And during the Republican National Convention, MSNBC reported nearly every minute, watched the entire convention, was respectful whenever anybody was giving a speech. The Democratic National Convention, not there, not on Fox.
They ran their regular programming until 10 o'clock, and then they had like 15 minutes of commentary right afterwards because they hadn't got their talking points off the fax machine yet, and then went.
Pretty much, but that's not all.
And by the way, Juan Williams was not back yet.
Yes,
he must be hanging out with the Corporate
casa.
Wives Club.
Oh,
remember he had his Corporate Wives comment, and maybe I saw him on the Sunday show, but he wasn't at this one.
He's not in prime time anymore. Yeah, the full comment was, not a single speaker uttered the words, Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago. Instead, there was a night full of tributes to government as the solution to every problem, even going as far as to say the government is the only one we all belong to. But government belongs to the American people, not the other way around. And the American people will hold President Obama accountable for his record.
The phrase belong to?
Yeah.
It's like belonging to a club.
Right.
It wasn't meant that the government owns us.
Right.
We belong to the government, meaning we're part of the government. We are the government. But they're going to twist that one around too, aren't they?
Yeah. Nuance,
it's like
Republicans.
It's like belonging to a yacht club. Romney, you can understand that one.
That's a great comparison. We'll have to use that one for Romney.
That's what they meant by that phrase.
It's like belonging to your country club. It doesn't mean the country club owns you.
There it is.
Yeah.
They still don't get it. They'll still try to muddle it. Just like you didn't build that.
Right. Which they continue to say that Obama said that in reference to individuals' businesses.
Rather than the roads and the public
He was distinctly and clearly speaking about infrastructure.
Well, that one word, that, is going to be as devastating as the word is to the keynote speaker tonight.
Well, as long as Obama doesn't have to ask the question, depends on what the definition of the word that is.
That's exactly what the question is. That was the joke I was trying to make.
Yeah, I
got
it.
Very poorly, obviously. But it definitely depends on what your definition of that is.
Well,
because he should have said those.
Yes.
You didn't build those, referring to the roads, and he said that.
He should have made the statement
It was a
clear.
royal that.
But, I would call out the Democrats if they were taking something so far out of context.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I would call them out. And
we did on that the sandwich machine thingy.
I don't recall the sandwich machine thing.
Mitt Romney was so amazed at the sandwich machine, where you pushed the screens and that was taken out of context.
Oh, the McDonald's thing.
Well, it wasn't McDonald's. It was like some
fast food chain where he could press the picture and order
the sandwich on and it was cut a little too quick and it was taken out of context, and that was a bad thing to do. But the Republicans have made this taken out of context word the cornerstone of their entire campaign.
Absolutely, but as Tina Dupuy said, it was awesome that they put we didn't build that poster right next to
we built that.
Yeah, we built that right next to the debt clock.
Yes.
Awesome. Good job. Thanks for pointing out the obvious, Republicans. Yeah. Anyhow, we're going to run to a break, and we're going to come right back with Mikel Weisser. Mikel Weisser, Weisser. He is the Democratic candidate for Congress in Arizona's 4th District. Go and check him out on Twitter, Mikel Weisser. We'll be right back with him after the break. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano.
This is going to be fun. It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Hi, this is Tim Cormall from The Tim Cormall Show. Join me and my guests most weeks for a progressive roundtable discussion about politics, news, and other fun topics. We laugh a lot about the hilarious antics of the right-wing nutjobs, as well as have serious discussions about issues affecting all of our lives. You can check out The Tim Cormall Show at timcormall.com, or you can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes by searching for The Tim Cormall Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/TimCormall. That's CORRIMAL. So come on over and join in the fun at timcormall.com.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott. Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or not. And filterfreeradio.com.
People don't think critically anymore. Just to examine or critique the system, the culture, political assumptions, things that they see on TV. I mean, whatever happened to the saying, don't believe everything you see or hear?
Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to The Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Your view is not being represented in this country because all of our views have been corrupted by money and politics. Remember, 94% of the time, the candidate who raises the most money wins.
That's the fact that we need to drive home constantly. It's all about the money. Dylan Radigan, you rock.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime.
Fresh from their star-studded performance in Hollywood.
They drummed you right out of Hollywood.
The year's hottest political show, the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour, is finally coming to the city that never sleeps, New York.
So you come crawling back to Broadway. Well, Broadway doesn't go for booze and dope.
On October 27th, the eve of Election 2012, the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour will take the stage at Broadway's world-famous Beacon Theater.
There is nothing like the thrill of doing a live show on Broadway.
Featuring John Fugelsang, Hal Sparks, Aisha Tyler,
Sexy lady,
and Stephanie Miller. For tickets, go to Ticketmaster.com or call 866-858-0008. Don't miss your one and only chance to see all the Sexy Liberal Comedy players live on one stage. That's the Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour at the Beacon Theater.
I love New York. You know why? Because it's open all night.
Hey, Dad, how do you throw a curveball? How do you build a fort? How do refrigerators run? How do fish learn how to swim?
Kids ask a lot of questions.
How high can you jump?
But you don't have to know every answer.
How many phone numbers are there?
Because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
How do cell phones work?
There are thousands of children in foster care who don't need every question answered.
What's electricity?
They just need you.
What's the moon made of?
For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. On the phone with us now is Mikel Weisser. Definitely go and check him out on Twitter and as well as his website. His name is spelled Mikelweisser. Michael, so is it official now? Are you the Democratic candidate for Congress in Arizona's 4th District?
It is not official yet, but I still believe it's true.
You still believe it's true?
Yep, they have 6 of the 7 counties have not officially concluded their votes. My race hasn't had a new update since Saturday. I'm 19 votes behind, which is in the range of the recount.
Interesting. See,
there is a recount. I was concerned because a lot of times in primaries there's not.
Well, perhaps because it's so close.
The range on this is 50 votes. If there's less than 50 votes difference in a congressional race with under 25,000 votes, then they do an automatic recount.
That's awesome. It was actually very difficult trying to find the specific information whether the final vote was out or not, because there's conflicting reports, and some having you ahead, some just say that the vote is still pending. So I was having a hard time determining whether or not it was final.
I know how you feel. I get people calling me and telling me that, hey, I've won, and I say, I love that. Where'd you find this information? They say, I read it 3 days ago.
Yeah. So is there any indication of when you're going to get the official information and we can campaign for you here on Talking Left Like Crazy?
Well, if they don't do the recount, then I should have my election certified on Friday, which is in 2 days.
Okay, well, we will be anxiously awaiting the news. I'm sure you'll let us know. MikelWeisser.org, Mikel Weisser on Twitter.
Yep.
So
tonight, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say tonight is a particularly fun time to check me out on Twitter. I'm the official blogger for the Arizona delegation and trying to talk trash as funny as I can.
That's awesome. Absolutely.
It's a sport, right?
You are officially at the Democratic National Convention, that's correct?
I am. I'm sitting in an unused corner of the unassigned media pool room, which is the size of a basketball court, and there's people clacking away on all sorts of keyboards right now. I'm looking at a guy clacking and trying to figure out what I'm talking about.
That's awesome. So we don't find out till Friday. We only have a few minutes with you. We'll let you get back to the convention. But what's been your favorite part about the about being there so far?
Well, my favorite spot, I'll go ahead and admit it. I love the chances to meet all the people that I've been admiring for years. This morning I had a conversation with Jesse Jackson. I've talked to several different other congressmen. I got to console Michael Dukakis, who is still upset that he didn't do a better job back in '88. I mean, the guy needs consoling. He's a really good governor. I was living in Massachusetts while he was governor. I was impressed with what he did. He can cheer up. Bush let us down. He didn't let us down.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, Michael, you definitely have our vote, and you know you will always have our continued support. So please, maybe we can have you back on next week for a few minutes and be celebrating your official candidacy.
I would love to do that, and if it's not celebrating my official candidacy, then we can kick off my 2014 campaign.
Sounds good. It's a deal.
I love the optimism. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Go enjoy the convention.
There's a lot of rights that need to be told they're wrong. I'm not going to give up.
Absolutely, and we'll be right here helping you fight the good fight.
Thank you so much. I love you guys at Talking Left.
We love you too.
Connection.
Have lots of fun. Hug lots of liberals for us.
I shall. I'll give every liberal your kiss.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Mikel Weisser, everybody. I stand corrected that he's not the official candidate.
That's when you said that right before the show. I'm like, really? Because I've been checking every single day.
I'm telling you.
There are conflicting reports.
There are so many conflicting reports, and I just went by date because I figured the most recent would probably be correct. And the most recent has him up 85 votes over Johnny Robinson. So let's hope they know something they haven't informed him on. Anyhow, we have so much more in store. We've got Tina Dupuy coming up to report, also from the convention. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano.
It reflects the drama of the human experience. Isn't that the essence of art? It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
While it's hard to fathom right-wing nuttiness, it's sure not hard to find these days. We saw it in full bloom recently when it popped right out of the head of Todd Akin, the GOP Senate candidate in Missouri. The learned congressman gave America a twisted tutorial on the imaginary science of legitimate rape, including an astonishing assertion of medical mojo. Akin explained that raped women don't get pregnant because, again, speaking scientifically, the female body has ways to, quote, shut that whole thing down. Whoa, screamed Mitt Romney and the entire Republican hierarchy as they rushed to declare Akin out of bounds and, well, nutty. But wait, guess who's presently co-sponsoring legislation with Akin to impose this theological witchcraft on America's women? Why, it's Romney's choice to be our vice president, Paul Ryan. And guess which party has just fully embraced Akin's nuttiness by including his absolutist no abortion even in the case of rape provision in its national platform? Yes, the Romney-Ryan Republicans. Yet that same party's panic poobahs have pronounced Akin's views so extreme that he should withdraw from the Missouri Senate race. Excuse me, but logically speaking, doesn't that mean Ryan should also withdraw from his race? Of course, in the fantasy universe of the far right, logic is an alien intruder, barred from interfering with either approved doctrine or political expediency. Indeed, here's their idea of logic. Todd Akin, a devout worshiper of junk science, is a member of the House Committee on Science. This is Jim Hightower saying, and if you find that surreal, let me add that it's hardly the only illogical perversion in the doctrinal right's carefully constructed nutland. For example, Michelle Bachmann is a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Go figure.
If you'd like more of Jim Hightower's real populism, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter gives you the real lowdown on which corporations, by name, are doing what to the middle class, our environment, and our democracy. Each month, the Hightower Lowdown brings you facts you didn't know, along with actions you can take to fight back. It also comes with a sense of humor. Hightower believes we can fight the gods and still have fun. Plus, get this, it's cheap. Only $15 brings you 12 issues a year. For real populism, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. Millions of American workers coast to coast celebrated Labor Day 2012, taking a family day off to attend parades, cookouts, and hear political speeches. In Madison, Wisconsin, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Vice President Gary Mitchell said it's vital that working people, union or non-union, not fall for the big lie that Romney-Ryan really cares about working people.
The truth is, these guys are not on your side. They have been stealing from you for 30 years since Ronald Reagan shifted the money away from working class people to the rich, and it has only accelerated under Bush, and it looks like they want to accelerate it some more. The banana republic of the United States is not where we need to be.
Dave Branson is executive director of the Building and Construction Trades Council of South Central Wisconsin. He says Republicans want to take away money and union protections from hardworking construction workers when instead the GOP should be supporting Obama initiatives to create construction jobs.
Well, this is a very important election, and our members have to mobilize. They have to realize that if Mitt Romney is elected, he's going to turn this nation into a right-to-work nation, and it's going to take money out of their pockets. He's going to do away with PLAs and make unions weaker. Our members have to get out and support Obama. We need to support putting construction trades back to work. These are family-supporting jobs. Our people work and live in the community right here, and we need to get back to work, put people back to work, and start putting bread on the table. It'll help the entire economy.
About 75 Palermo's pizza workers are still on strike over the right to form a union to address everything from low wages to discrimination on the job. A boycott of Palermo's pizzas is underway until the company recognizes the workers' right to form a union. Mario Ramirez of Voces de la Frontera was at the Madison Labor Day celebration to support Palermo pizza workers.
For 4 years, those workers came to Voces and for many issues about unsafety conditions. Many workers get hurt. bad treatment, discrimination, and very low wages, and working 7 days a week, so they decide to organize to have a union.
Peggy Coyne is the incoming president of Madison Teachers, Inc. She's hoping people vote their big picture interests in November.
I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll all vote with our smarts and that people will do their research and seek out the truth, because I'm a little worried based on what happened here in June.
This newscast is made possible in part by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. I feel like I'm choking. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
We are playing a long game here, and that change is hard, and change is slow, and it never happens all at once, but eventually we get there. We always do.
Welcome back to Talking Left. Live, giving us a report from the DNC floor right now, is Tina Dupuy, editor-in-chief of The Contributor. Tina, how awesome was it to witness that speech live?
Yeah, she's kind of awesome.
Just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like how the Republicans felt last week when they listened to Chris Christie and they were like, why isn't he our nominee?
Yeah, I actually made the same comment.
Why am I not voting for Michelle Obama? She gives better speeches. She's funnier. She's a better dancer. And she's better in every way. Why am I voting for the second tier, which is her husband?
Absolutely. I mean, it looked like she had pretty much everybody in the House enthralled, engaged. I saw a few tears. Was that the case for people sitting around you?
I thought that was just me. I'm exhausted. I did a Stephanie Miller show today, and she's like, yeah, we've been on the air for 3 hours. I was like, I've been doing this for 9 days.
Yes, because you were at the Republican convention first, and now you're at the Democratic convention. A little different mood there, perhaps?
Slightly. Yeah, I'm now seeing all the people that the Republicans want to take their country back from.
Ah, those damn hippie, commie, liberal socialists?
A bunch of, homosexuals, Black people, non-Cuban Hispanics.
Can I go out on a limb and say that nearly 0 instances of racism at the Democratic National Convention, at least that you've witnessed?
I don't know. That seems a little generous. I don't know how that I could even quantify such a thing. However, it is a party. It's also, Charlotte is a lot more of a fun town. There's not the militarized zone outside. There are protests, but they're mainly they're actually near the convention center, which was not the case in Tampa, where they were 2 miles away. There was a street fair on Monday, Labor Day, and had food and music and dancing. And the Democrats are in a much more festive mood, which is fantastic, because when the Republicans are happy, that's the country. And as we saw, they were very happy when Bush was president, and that was really bad. So now, and this is, it really is an answer to everything that the Republicans were talking about last week about, how they want to take the country back. And, of course, the Democrats, they are saying where they're going to move forward, which, it's pretty simple. But when you look out in the crowd and you see the delegates and you see who is at the DNC and who are filling the seats, they look like America looks like in 2012, as opposed to how America looked in 1912.
That's a really, really, really strong and amazing point.
Yes. This is what America now looks like. There are women in positions of power, not enough, but they're still there. There are, people of different nationalities and different colors who all came to America to be American. And it's no longer just like a white Protestant country. It's a country that is it's an ideal, and people move here and come here for those ideals. It's an idea, not a race. And the Republicans are playing to the lowest common denominator, pandering to the lowest common denominator. And the Democrats have finally gotten a big tent.
It's Pat Buchanan. It's Pat Buchanan's worst nightmare. Looking at the crowd over the DNC, I have to think.
Well, every and Rush Limbaugh, it is basically what they've been warning about, is that there's going to be a bunch of people, a bunch of people of different, ethnicities, all kind of getting together and voting for, that one.
It's an immigrant conspiracy. That'll be their new terminology we're going to hear from the right next.
They're always good for a laugh. So.
Absolutely. Being there, and we have to admit that we are jealous, but we love you for giving us time and telling us about it. What do you say to the people who say there's no enthusiasm this time for Obama, that, he'll never recapture those voters that he had in 2008?
Well, nothing's ever going to be the same as anything ever was. Like, that's kind of a ridiculous thing to even say. We always reelect our president. About 70% of the time we reelect the incumbent. However, we also love to hate our second-term president.
Yeah.
So, of course, the problem with Obama, and I wrote this about 3 years ago, is that he's just a president. The things that he can do are things that only a president can do, and the things he can't do is because he's just a president. For example, they sold out the 65,000 seat stadium, and there was a waiting list according to the campaign, of another 19,000.
Right.
But they had to cancel it due to rain. So it's this is a perfect metaphor for the Obama administration, because yes, he's disappointing tons of people, but it's for a reason that is above his pay grade, which is an open-air stadium that during a rainstorm cannot have electrical equipment without putting lives in peril.
Yeah, so, you mean he can't control the weather is what you're telling me? He's not the deity that Republicans say we portray him as?
Right. Last week, and this was this is the best I heard, when they said Obama was the one who made the Republicans, who brought the tornado and made the Republicans cancel their convention. And I'm like, yeah, let's all vote for the dude who controls the weather.
Wait, but I thought Pat Robinson said it was because
doesn't control the weather.
Yeah, I thought it was because Pat Robertson said we love the gays, that was the reason. Apparently now it's Obama's fault?
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently he only controls the weather when it's not in his favor.
Gotcha. So Tina Dupuy, editor of The Contributor, you are all about the online content and social media, and you just seem to be always present on all those various platforms.
I have a lot of coffee and not a lot of friends.
What do you say? Did you hear Michelle Obama's tweets per minute were 23,000 per minute? Do you have any reaction to that? I mean, you were there.
She was amazing. I mean, she was amazing. And I thought I was getting emotional just because I'm exhausted. She was amazing. She was able to talk about all. Tip O'Neill said that all politics is local, and I think that all politics is personal. I grew up in foster care, and to me, all politics is very personal. I was personally affected by policy. Government is not in the abstract for me. It's something that I have experienced firsthand, and she was able to articulate what it is like to work hard, and she mentioned work in a way that's also not in the abstract, and Republicans don't kind of understand that. There's this if you're unemployed, you should just get a job. If you're poor, you should just work harder, and that's not the economic reality. When I was at the Tea Party last week, it was just do it. Just go and fix yourself and so government can get out of the way. And that's not actually how that works. Government is for the greater good. Our rights do not come from nature. I mean, like just have a natural setting. And what happens to your rights? They no longer exist. But they do come from government. They do come from laws, and they come from order, which is government. And she was able to connect on that level without pandering, without, Ann Romney was like, love the ladies. It's like, oh, okay. And trying to sell that they used to struggle when they were younger. And the Obamas actually did. When Obama became president, I had a 2005 Dodge Neon, and I hated that car with a flaming passion. And the only thing that made it cool was that Barack Obama had the exact same car, only 4 years older. And I was like, this dude actually understands what it's like to drive a Dodge Neon.
A rusted-out Dodge Neon,
apparently. As Clinton would say, he feels my pain.
Yes.
But, I love that they've paid off their student loans, and that was something, my husband and I have struggled with that ourselves, like how to pay for bills and, can we pay for this? And this is a human experience, and there's not, and last week it was all about moralizing. If you're not wealthy, then there's something wrong with you. But if you are wealthy, then we should do everything within our power to make life easier for you, which, that's not a democracy that represents the people. That's a government that only represents, these 1% or the fraction thereof.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say again that we're very jealous. We're not there, and we're not, didn't see Michelle, and we won't see Clinton and Obama yet to come. But thank you so much, Tina, for taking time with us, and go enjoy hanging out with all the liberals.
Yeah, no, it's, there's no liberals here. These are Democrats.
Well said.
Bye, guys.
Brilliant. Bye. Love you, Tina. See you. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Tina Dupuy.
She's brilliant.
She is editor-in-chief of The Contributor. You can check that out at thecontributor.com or all things Tina at tinadupuy.com.
That metaphor is absolutely pointing out the metaphor of not being able to control everything and having to disappoint a certain number. That about the arena tomorrow night. Absolutely perfect metaphor. She's dead nuts on.
It really is. And, about the people being disappointed because of the rain. I was going to ask her about that, but she beat me to the punch.
Yeah, and she was talking about politics being personal. It ties right into what Pap was saying, that, government. You don't want government until you need government. When something personally affects you, that's when you want government there.
Oh, it's
all personal.
It's like all these attacks on, welfare or social programs of any sort that the Republicans make that, people on welfare are just lazy or people collecting food stamps just want to sit around and collect the check. You know damn well that when it comes to their voters, it's the hint, hint, we don't mean you. We know you are hardworking and you just really can't find a job, and that bad employer that laid you off because of Obama's regulation, it's not you. It's the other guy that we're talking about. And somehow they convince them. I never understand
and
it.
Paul Ryan, we want to get rid of Social Security. Not for me. But the thing is that's what's even more interesting. They're able to depersonalize government. When people say, get your government hands off my Medicare.
It's true.
They personally benefit from government, yet hate government at the same time.
And still try and fight to run it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they hate government so much, they just want to be a part of it.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Never will I understand it.
It's like someone applying to be a NASCAR racer who hates high speeds.
Yeah. We've got great guests still left in store. Kymone Freeman of WeAct Radio, and so much more. He's got an amazing bio. He's going to be coming up in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano. Lots more show in store.
Holy crap!
We'll have more on these new developments after this.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Are you
living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiostations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiostations.com. Be sure to like Left-Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiostations.com. United we stand.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from bradblog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of bradblog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK, and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
How do you impart upon somebody the disconnect or what's otherwise known as hypocrisy that people have, that they deny themselves from? They live in denial and live in the illusion.
You can't tell somebody they're wrong. They have to see it themselves.
Yeah, they have to discover for themselves how to think that way. So how do you plant the inception?
Filter-free radio, Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or not. And filterfreeradio.com.
Arr, you mateys. Welcome to the ocean. I've sailed the seven seas 100 times and found something I like even more than me treasure. 'Tis the ocean, beautiful and clear. Right now I be sailing over the Great Barrier Reef. It just shivers me timbers thinking of all the fish and coral below me. Wait, what's that floating by? A plastic bag? By Blackbeard's eye patch, that's disgusting. Why did you know that many of these things come from folks throwing them carelessly on the ground? It be true. Lend us a hand by always recycling and disposing of your trash properly. Boys, get the plank ready. Somebody's got to dive in and get that bag. Any volunteers? All right, fine. I'll do it myself. Cannonball! Find out what you can do to help keep the oceans healthy at keepoceansclean.org. Brought to you by the Keep Oceans Clean Alliance and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are keeping our eye on the Democratic National Convention going on. It does appear Elizabeth Warren is going to be speaking next.
She rocks.
She rocks, absolutely.
She was at Netroots.
Yeah, she was at Netroots. She was awesome there. We will tune in to her speech if we can catch it. And we
will be out of here before the big dog speaks.
Yes, we will be out of your hair, and we'd take no offense if you watch Elizabeth Warren over us.
Yeah, any part of the Democratic convention. By the way, we've covered a lot of the Republican convention this week.
Yeah.
Simply because the other than a few speeches last night, we'll cover the Democratic convention next week.
Right.
One of the downfalls of having a Wednesday night show, but one of the upsides of a Wednesday night show, the very first debate we will be doing here live with sound effects.
That's awesome.
Yes.
We need to put a sound effects box over here.
We can hook you up.
Awesome.
I think there's some wires around here somewhere.
Just maybe.
I might be able to hunt some down. I'll find the drawer they're in. They should be somewhere. I don't know.
Speaking of Elizabeth Warren, she best known for fighting for American citizens and fighting against corporations, fighting against...
Not against. I think that's
okay.
I think that's exactly
fighting against corporate abuse.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. Specifically bank abuse and banks being really creative with how they make money.
Right.
And her main line, I love this line, she wants to make banking go back to the way it used to be. Really boring.
Absolutely.
Boring banking is a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to watch and make sure we don't miss her speech. But in the meantime, we wanted to share with you an important new memo by Eric Cantor, speaking of regulation.
Oh, no.
Eric Cantor, him and his bleep face, for all the Stephanie Miller listeners, released a memo on August 29th citing the 10 regulations that the GOP wants to cut if they are elected.
Was this like Dave Letterman? Top 10?
Pretty much. But there's a lot of repetition here.
Well, if you repeat things over and over again.
Pretty much. I mean, I think 9 out of 10 of these are EPA regulations. There are a lot having to do with pollution, or 8 out of 10, I believe. The first one they have listed would be H.R. 2587, the Protecting Jobs from Government Interference Act. Doesn't that sound great?
Where do they come up with these names? They must smell from where they come from.
This is in response to the National Labor Relations Board that issued a complaint against Boeing for moving jobs from Washington to South Carolina. Well, why did they move the jobs to South Carolina?
Because it was a right to fire state or right to work state.
Right. So, and they probably had a few contracts in Washington stating that they would remain there. A company like Boeing probably had some infrastructure
Might have
built,
some roots.
Yeah,
It's
in order
amazing.
to accommodate their needs.
But think about the infrastructure they likely have and what the cost would be for that move and how much labor savings they must have.
Absolutely.
How much less they're really going to pay workers in South Carolina to make that move fiscally feasible, maybe even profitable. Incredible.
Yeah.
In other words, the money for their move is going to be taken out of the hides of workers.
That's a really, really...
that's the only way they can make it feasible because
it.
their job is to make money. They're not moving to South Carolina because of the view.
Yeah, exactly.
Although it's a beautiful state.
It is a beautiful state. Number 2, utility MACT, M-A-C-T, and CSAPR, new maximum achievable control technology standards and cross-state air pollution rule. Basically, they're complaining that these decrease job creation.
Well, but you know what this rule is about? This is about you can't pump a bunch of crap in the air and the next state over bears the brunt of the pollution.
Right.
And the reason they need that gone is so that Romney's little let's return energy to the decisions to the states would never fly without it, because otherwise when you dig something up and the next state over collapses or gets polluted or their water turns to crud, they're going to have states suing other states.
Right.
Right. They
God forbid that, I want my air quality protected and that the state next to me doesn't get to pollute all they want to.
Or downriver.
Right.
The state just north of you on the Mississippi decides they're going to frack on the banks of the Mississippi.
Yeah, but you ready for this great bill name? You know how the Republicans are.
They're amazing.
H.R. 2401, the Transparency in Regulatory Analysis of Impacts on the Nation Act. And it's the acronym TRAIN.
All right. And what does this bill do?
Would require a cumulative economic analysis for specific EPA rules and specifically delay the final date for both the utility, MACT, and CSAPR rules until the full impact has been studied.
Until the full impact has been studied? They're still studying global climate change.
Right.
So in other words, never.
Yes. Number 3, the H.R. 2250, the EPA Regulatory Relief Act. The EPA Regulatory Relief Act, which would provide a legislative stay of 4 interrelated rules issued by the EPA in March of this year. The legislation would also provide the EPA with at least 15 months to repropose and finalize new achievable rules that do not destroy jobs.
Oh, and who gets to decide which rules?
Who do you think?
Yeah, what a bunch of bull.
I don't want to miss Elizabeth Warren. I hope you're watching the TV there to see if she joins us.
Actually, we need to go to a break.
Okay. We're going to run to a break, and we'll come right back with Elizabeth Warren. Thank you, Mr. Producer Man.
No problem. We're at the top of the hour.
This is Talking. I was having so much fun with those regulations. This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and you're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
It's Tuesday, September 4, 2012.
President Obama promised to begin to slow the rise of the oceans.
Romney mocks climate change.
Denying climate change won't make it stop.
While Obama doesn't, as the Democratic National Convention gets underway.
It's critical in the long term to have the smallest emissions footprint possible when you generate electricity.
Energy company CEO pushes a price on carbon. The Midwest drought now coming for your popcorn. Plus, speaking of popping,
as this heat continues, they're going to continue to just blow up and pop.
Hurricane Isaac's recovery, now with dead rats.
Ooh, all of that and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
What's the solution to global warming? We don't need one, because it isn't real. And even if it is, big whoop, just buy an air conditioner, you
You tell him, Bill Maher. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Des, as the Democratic National Convention gets underway in Charlotte this week, Joe Rome over at Climate Progress notes a change in the strategy of Team Obama and the way they're dealing with Republican climate change denial. Describing the Obama White House's take on climate change over the past several years as the Voldemort of national issues, the threat that must not be named, things seem to be changing out on the stump as Obama is finally, once again, talking about climate change.
Yeah, and it looks like it may signal a shift in campaign strategy. But we'll have more on that in a moment. First, on Monday, President Obama toured southern Louisiana communities hit hard by heavy flooding and wind damage from Hurricane Isaac.
I want to particularly thank FEMA and the state and local authorities because sometimes in the past we haven't seen the kind of coordination that is necessary in response to these kinds of disasters. This time we've seen it.
Sometimes in the past, eh?
Yeah, very diplomatically referring to the 1,800 people who died after Hurricane Katrina. Thankfully, in Hurricane Isaac, only 7 fatalities reported in 2 states. Serious flooding lingers in areas outside New Orleans' federal levee system. Over 100,000 customers remain without power a week after the storm, as forecasters warn another major heat wave is moving in. Isaac also stirred up a new surge of BP oil tar balls on Gulf Coast beaches.
Lovely.
Yes, but also washing up on shore, an expensive public health problem, says Waveland, Mississippi Mayor David Garcia. 10,000 dead nutria, a kind of swamp rat.
It's a terrible smell. As this heat continues, they're going to continue to just blow up and pop.
Oh, man.
Nasty, I know. Hurricane Isaac brought a little rain to the drought-stricken Midwest, but that was too late to save America's popcorn. Agriculture analysts say you can expect to pay even more for popcorn at the movies than you already do because the delicate U.S. popcorn crop, the primary supplier to the rest of the world, was especially hard hit by the drought.
So the $15 I usually pay for 3 cents of popcorn is going to go up to $20 for 6 cents of popcorn?
Oh, you betcha it is. Get out your popcorn for the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina this week.
I can't afford it.
Starting Tuesday, the Democratic Party hopes to draw a sharp contrast with the Republican Party, including on renewable energy policy and climate change. Last week at the Republican National Convention, GOP presidential candidate Mitt Romney pushed the Republicans' energy policy. Oil above all, drill everywhere, gut investment in clean energy, and treat climate change as a joke.
You make it sound like it's not a good thing.
President Obama promised to begin to slow the rise of the oceans and to heal the planet. My promise is to help you and your family.
As if somehow your family will do well if we destabilize the climate on the only habitable planet in the universe.
Well, there's that.
The Obama campaign responded to Romney saying, quote, "It is nothing short of terrifying to imagine a party that openly mocks climate change taking back the White House." In contrast, President Obama has suddenly begun mentioning climate change in campaign speeches.
Denying climate change won't make it stop. These things won't make for a brighter future.
Unlike the Republican Party platform that doesn't even mention climate change, the Democratic Party platform explicitly calls for increased investment in clean energy and for an international treaty to limit greenhouse gas emissions. But unlike their 2008 platform, the Democrats stopped short of calling for a price on carbon emissions. But Jim Rogers, the CEO of the nation's largest electric utility, Duke Energy, tells CNN that carbon pricing would be a smart solution.
I think it's critical in the long term to have the smallest emissions footprint possible when you generate electricity. And so to me, addressing the issue sooner so we can phase our way into it is going to minimize the cost impact on consumers.
Wow, that's an amazing statement from the CEO of the nation's largest electrical supplier.
There's surprising support for that among the nation's electric utilities.
Add that to the statement by CEO of ExxonMobil, Rex Tillerson, with his concern about global climate change. It's almost as if when these CEOs have the camera rollings, they say one thing, and then behind closed doors, they're spending millions and millions to get Republicans to say something else.
Indeed.
For more on that story and the ones we couldn't get to, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. While you're there, please consider a donation to help sponsor the Green News Report. We rely on you until Duke Energy starts taking out ads. From bradblog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Joining us in studio is an amazing guest that I am very proud and honored to have on and speaking with, Kymone Freeman, founder, program director, and co-owner of WeAct Radio and Newton Media Group, host of Speakeasy with Kymone Freeman and Ron Pinchback. You also are a poet, playwright, activist, father, and director of the National Black Love Festival, one of the largest annual AIDS mobilizations in the nation. KymoneFreeman.com, WeActRadio.com. You are just everywhere, sir.
Yeah, everywhere except for in the spaces that make money. You know? I'm doing what I can as part of my Angry Black Man in Therapy routine to ensure that we manage our energies appropriately.
Yeah, I've been very impressed interacting with you over at WeAct, and there's a lot of children that walk by the studio. There's a lot of young interns in the studio. And one thing that really impressed me is that you don't speak to children like they're idiots. It's one of my personal pet peeves. So I just have to commend you on that.
Thank you.
I saw you. I have to just tell a quick story for the audience that we were standing outside and children passed that were selling candy, trying to get money. And Kymone said, "No, I'm not going to buy your candy, but if you come back and show me your library card, I'll give you $10. And not only did you hold up on that bargain, but you actually stepped out of the studio during your own live show to when that young man came back into the WeAct studio. That is very rare, and I just have to commend you on that. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's just that, if we're going to be throwback radio, if we're going to be community-oriented, we can't just talk about it, we have to be about it. And that's one of the problems I found with, the progressive movement. Elitism still permeates some facets of that. We still have classes and some aspects of that. Here we are in this day and time, 2012, and we're talking about espousing virtues of fallen heroes like Martin Luther King. We build monuments to his credit, but we don't think it's safe to go to a Martin Luther King Avenue. Why are you going to that neighborhood? And this man was killed fighting for, labor movement, sanitation workers, the least of these. And I think that if we just reflect on that for a moment, we should be able to get some hindsight and some enlightenment on what we should be doing. And I wanted to always try to emanate as much as I can to be a living example and not just talking about it, as Gandhi say, become the change you want to see in the world.
Well, from the short time that I've had the pleasure of knowing you, it definitely seems like you put your money where your mouth is on that one. And I also have to say we can relate on the lack of money in radio. It's a labor of love. Nobody really gets rich.
Not for
radio.
Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
And and his ilk, and the folks who are touring the corporate line and making sure that speech is equated with money. When we start to think for ourselves, then those funding sources dry up. I just want to make the distinction between the two.
That's very, very well said. I know we were planning on having a little bit of fun this segment. If you would like to join us,
hey, Emma Goldman said, if you can't dance, it's not my revolution. We got to enjoy ourselves in the process.
Absolutely, and we just wanted to see if Republicans had realized the man they nominated. Do they actually know who it is that they have nominated?
Yeah,
Shane,
we're going to call this segment "Congratulations, Republicans! You just elected this guy." What do you think?
I think that's great.
Which guy? Because
this is wrong. Or just nominated this guy, the guy who said things like this.
I believe that since Roe v. Wade has been the law for 20 years, that we should sustain and support it. And I sustain and support that law and the right of a woman to make that choice.
See, I would nominate that guy.
That's one guy.
Yeah.
Remix.
Yeah. Do we have the alternate? Oh, poor Shane is running back and forth from like 4 computers, the board.
Working hard for the no money.
But we will keep an eye out to see if we see Elizabeth Warren on. I don't think so. I think they're doing roll call right now.
Not yet. How about this one, an amnesty?
I think an amnesty program is what moves all the illegal immigrants who are here are now citizens, and walk up and get your citizenship. Registering to become a citizen or applying to become a citizen and paying a fee, and those are things that are being considered, and I think that those are reasonable proposals.
Now, just oppose that with everybody should self-deport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we?
Shout out to all those who was on the Freedom Bus that stood the risk of being deported at the DNC
Absolutely.
yesterday. I want to shout them out. I think that's a fantastic job.
Absolutely. I wasn't aware of that.
There was a whole bus from Arizona that drove out there, and they was protesting outside the police perimeter. Because David Schuster says that it was harder to get through the RNC or the DNC barricades than it was to get into the green zone in Baghdad.
Wow.
Yeah, and in the face of that, these undocumented Latinos, immigrants, because that's what it is, Latinos. Whenever they're talking about immigration law, they're talking about Latinos. They're not talking about Ukraine immigrants or Russian immigrants. They're talking about Latinos and the browning of America. But they stood in the face of all of that, and they said that we're undocumented, and we want our voices to be heard while this platform is here, and there's something needs to be done to allow us to stay in the country. And at the risk of arrest and deportation, they did that, and several of them was arrested, and I think that their actions should be commended.
I couldn't agree more. Do we have a applause sound effect?
Well, I can get some in-studio applause. Yeah.
There we go. That's awesome. Good for them. We'll have to do a follow-up. And
I wish I had the names of those who were arrested. I'm going to look into it. But maybe because they was undocumented.
Yeah, but hopefully we can do a follow-up and report that none of them are deported, because
I hope not.
That would seriously be an injustice.
Well, this administration has deported more people than the Bush administration, So, that's something to be said. That's something that needs to be worked on.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all for the DREAM Act. I really wish that the Republicans would go along with that. But what scares me about the recent change in legislation, Obama's, saying that young people who can stay in America, that's pretty much an executive order that Romney can undo. I mean, that's a big concern for me.
I thought he just said that he was on board for allowing them to stay.
Romney?
Didn't we just hear the guy say?
That was old Romney.
Oh, it's the old Romney.
Yeah. See, I would nominate that guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we stuck with a new Romney.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're stuck with the puppet Romney.
All right. So how much money they give this guy to switch his to? Oh, $400 million from the Koch
Exactly.
Yeah, all these clips are old clips of when Mitt Romney took his stances before.
Oh, this one he was actually for the healthcare system that he promoted as governor in Massachusetts. Okay.
No, I like mandates. The mandates work.
He likes mandates?
Yeah, I want universal coverage. I want everyone in Massachusetts and in this country to have insurance. Where are we going with universal health care? I support universal health.
Universal coverage. I mean, I think that's the most important civil rights issue of our time. That how can you be free if you have to determine whether or not you can pay to send your kid to the doctor or put food on the table? You know, how is that really free? Universal coverage, true. Public option, universal payer would be ideal, but old Romney would have supported it. New Romney, repeal Obamacare. He doesn't talk about repealing Massachusetts' health care plan. I find that interesting.
I don't know how he's even gotten this far on that type of flim-flam. You know, it just goes to show you that we don't have any real in-depth reporting from the mainstream media outlets, because I'm willing to wager that the average Joe walking down the street who is clear on Romney bad, Obama good, doesn't know that.
Absolutely.
You know, or even the guy who thinks the vice versa, Obama bad, Romney good, doesn't know that.
Absolutely. The scary part is Romney's taken so many sides on every issue, depending on how they cut an ad. A political ad. I mean, they could sway a lot of voters. If you had an ad that said, I support health care mandates, I am pro-choice, I support, allowing undocumented immigrants to stay here, wouldn't you vote for him?
Well, you know, you really want me to answer that honestly, because I have a problem with the two-party political system. Let me just say that. But it's not it's not unusual for a politician to flip-flop. This is not out of their character to do so. It's just that protocol dictates that they normally wait until they get into office to flip-flop. And this guy has flipped and flopped and flopped and flipped, and he hasn't even obtained the office yet. So he is the quintessential intellectual prostitute who is willing to sell his soul and services to the highest bidder.
Damn, I couldn't have said that better myself. No, I mean, feel free to elaborate. You're not into the two political party system. I think a lot of people in this country are.
No, I think we're a slave to that. It's an oligarchy. It's they've both been bought and paid for. It's a very thin line between the distinctions between the two. One is we're going to kill you, and the other one, we're going to prevent them from killing you. Well, either way, you're not going to improve my plight. It's just dumb and dumber. So it's like the good cop, bad cop. The Republicans walk in and they beat you with a telephone book, and then the Democrats, the good cop, walk in and pulls them off of you and offers you a cup of coffee and does virtually the same thing that the other, and they slap high fives afterwards. So it's they agree more than they disagree. That's a sad reality. In terms of foreign policy. Of course, we might argue about war hawks and this, that, and the third, but I'm talking about the lion's share of issues they agree on. There's some argument over, issues that are divisive, but in terms, neither one of them are talking about cutting the budget for military. I'm trying not to say the defense budget, because that was
I hate
PR,
that term.
Yeah, that was a PR creation by at Edward Bernays when they changed it from the War Department, because war bad, people are tired of war, but defense, there we go, and it's hard to argue against that. But they're both increasing military budget, so they agree on a lion's share of the budget, and I think that needs to be said that neither one of them are actually going to be about stopping American imperialism and these unchecked wars in the business of military-industrial complex.
I definitely think your point is valid, of lesser of two evils,
yes.
Kind of a point. But, on issues like the Supreme Court and abortion and gay marriage, things like that I think are very strong differences.
I think those are divisive social issues because the only reason is the health care thing was even a divisive issue because it was draped by a black man. So they that's why it's even called Obamacare. I think it's derogatory. They call it Obamacare. I can't really jump up and down for it because the health insurance companies still, made off like fat cats because it went from healthcare reform to health insurance reform, and there was like never a problem. And we still don't have universal health care. You still don't have people don't have unlimited access to health care. And there are people who I know personally who have health insurance, and when they're referred to see a specialist, that insurance policy doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
And they have to go out of pocket for that. So so I know someone who doesn't have the money to see a specialist to get the attention that they need, and they're waiting for finances and checks and things so they can go get the care that they need. And it's absurd. But so I don't want to applaud too hard, and I don't want to criticize too hard either, because yes, more people having access is a good thing. Yes, but does it solve the problem? No. So I just want to make sure that's it. And yes, you are correct. I think that in terms of lesser of two evils, one evil is really evil, and one is evil is much more, you can live with this, So I just want to make that distinction. But I would prefer the greater evil, because I think the greater evil will cause more people to do something, rather than being sedated and pacified and he's a nice guy, and he's doing the best he can, and look at his family, oh, they're so cute. It's kind of hard to galvanize people to get anything done. But if Romney was president, of course, what do I know? Bush was president for 8 years and nothing happened, and nobody liked him. So I don't know how that worked, but I would like to see. I'd like to see what would actually have to happen to get people to actually stop and pay attention to what's going on. To interrupt a football game. To interrupt, I don't know, what are some of the nonsense they're wrestling or Dancing with the Stars American Idol. More people voted for American Idol than participated in the election?
Yep.
You know that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a sad state in our economy. We do have to run to a break. We're gonna be back with more Kymone Freeman and all of this brilliant discussion. Maybe check in and see if Elizabeth Warren's around, but don't go anywhere.
Love ya.
Yes, absolutely. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left. We'll be right back.
Everyone expected just a piece of fluff, but we wanted to do something important. Issue stuff.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not.
Radio or Not. RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Bill Maher, you're here in Miami on Friday night. You're doing a show at the Fillmore at the Jackie Gleason Theater. They just renamed this theater the Fillmore. And they put up a couple of psychedelic posters. So I guess...
Was it the theater Jackie did his TV show from?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
What I hear they did is put up two of those old Bill Graham posters and renamed it.
Yeah, I can't think of two different icons of show business.
Yeah, really.
Bill Graham and Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, why they just didn't play up the Jackie Gleason aspect, I don't know. But then again, this is South Florida.
Right. Okay.
Welcome to it.
I feel warned.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at RadioOrNot.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than Ken.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
You know that the ice cream scoop has the power to make a child smile, and that by slowing us down, the traffic light can keep us going. You know that the golf tee brings friends together, that the mailbox keeps them connected. You know that the cataract laser helps you look to the future, while the pacemaker ensures that there's a future to be seen. You know that the lawnmower, the clothes dryer, and the elevator make life easier, that the blood bank makes life possible. You know that these things we count on every day started as ideas. But did you know all these ideas came from the minds of African Americans? Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Please visit uncf.org or call 1-800-332-UNCF. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Hope everybody out there is enjoying the show so far. Thanks to the great guests we've had on earlier in the program, Mike Papantonio, Tina Dupuy, Mikel Weisser. We'll put all those sorry, Shane,
I love Papantonio.
We love Papantonio.
Papantonio is a beast. I love that guy.
We'll put all those links up with the blog post after the show. But speaking with us and joining us for this portion of the show, we're very excited to have Kymone Freeman, founder, program director, and co-owner of WeAct Radio and host of Speak Easy with Kymone Freeman and Ron Pinchback every Monday through Friday, live 6 to 7 p.m. on WeAct Radio, 1480 AM, WPWC in Washington, D.C.
Yes, and we also airing every Friday night at 9 o'clock on Channel 16, District D.C. Network.
Oh, that's exciting. Then I can watch it on TV.
Yeah, well, if you're not inside D.C., you will have to watch it online because Channel 16, for whatever reason, cable access is limited inside the District of Columbia.
Yeah,
because
I think
it's a government station. You know, I don't know why they allow me to get on a government TV station, but so have it. There I am. And I don't know what 16 is outside of D.C., so it'd be interesting to see it. But you can go to officeofcabletelevision.dc.gov, and you can watch us online, oct.dc.gov, and you can catch us online. For those who are outside the Babylon area of District of Columbia.
That's awesome. I didn't realize you also were on TV.
Well, it starts. We're premiering. Starts this Friday at 9 o'clock. Yeah.
That's awesome.
First premiere.
We will be tuned in and watching it for sure.
Oh, great, wonderful! I will be drinking and watching it
too. So tell me more about the National Black Love Festival and the work you do with that.
The labor of love. Well, you know, the festival actually was a music, poetry, and information community awareness event disguised as a festival because we wanted to combine art with activism. It all started because I'm a poet first and foremost, and out of my writings, again, these are angry black men in therapy outlets, pressure for the pressure cooker. And I come from the tradition of Black Broadway, otherwise known as U Street. There was a small renaissance going on in the mid-1990s. And around the time that Tupac and Biggie were assassinated, a lot of folks was fed up with the same old, same old. We wanted to see something different. We saw all of these incredible artists, independent artists, and then what we were hearing on the radio and what we were seeing on TV didn't reflect what we were seeing in the venues that we was performing at and was paying to go see. And artists that would come to town and sell out venues, but they couldn't get on the radio. They couldn't get it. And so I was involved with a discussion over libations. And some of these artist friends of mine were complaining on how they couldn't get access to other festivals and on stages because they wasn't this and they wasn't commercial artists. And that's I said, why don't you get together and build your own stage? And then I was challenged and by them saying that, well, why don't you build your own stage? You think it's so easy. And I'm like, okay. And that's what I did. I created a stage and I put it outside. And so instead of being in these back room coffee houses, smoke-filled room at the time, I put it out in the sun so it can germinate and the kids can see it and hear it. And so it was built around poets and speakers and vendors and organizations, progressive organizations that would I thought was doing great work in the community that weren't getting the time of day. And so that's what the festival was about. It was music, poetry, information. It was a community awareness event disguised as a festival. And since we are in D.C., and one of the number one issues that are affecting us here in D.C. is AIDS. It's 12 times the national AIDS infection rate is right here. And so by default, we were involved with AIDS mobilizations. And some of our testing numbers exceeded those of any other event in the city for 6 years straight, which I'm proud to have part of. And that's when I met Alex Lawson, who is currently my business partner with the current endeavor at Newton Media Group and WeAct Radio. So had it not been for the festival, and I say this with bittersweet, because we haven't produced the festival in the last 2 years because of lack of funding, you call it what you want, economy, increased costs, the lack of support. There has been a very, and plus I'm a father now, so my priorities switched, so I couldn't take financial losses for doing labor of loves at this point in time in my life. I had to, take care of my responsibilities. But I'm looking for the opportunity for it to come back. But had it not been for the festival, I wouldn't have met a lot of beautiful people. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to travel the world because it has become my business card where people know me from. I've heard of that. I wish I had $1 for every time someone said they heard of the festival. But at our height, we had 10,000 people there. But I swear, 100,000 people swear they went to the Black Earth Fest. I'm like, you was never there. When? What year? Was you there? So from 1997 to 2010, we did it every year except for 2 years.
That's awesome, and hopefully it makes a comeback soon.
We're looking forward to having a comeback with it. It will come back at some point in time. It's just that it has to. The stars and the planets have to be in alignment correctly because I don't want to take away from what we built up. People have remembered it for this, and I don't want it to come back and as that.
I gotcha. Absolutely. We're going to run to another short break real quick. And
I love your music breaks.
We will be right back here on Talking Left. Don't go anywhere. More Kymone Freeman and me, Danielle, and Shano coming up next.
Shout out to Papantonio.
It's Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks Radio program Mega Worldwide, and this is Talking Left.
Are you living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiosstations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiosstations.com. Be sure to like Left-Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiosstations.com. United we stand.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from BradBlog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of BradBlog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
How do you impart upon somebody the disconnect or what's otherwise known as hypocrisy that people have, that they deny themselves from? They live in denial and live in the illusion.
You can't tell somebody they're wrong. They have to see it themselves.
Yeah, they have to discover for themselves how to think that way. So how do you plant the inception?
Filter-free radio, Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or not, and filterfreeradio.com.
Arr, you mateys. Welcome to the ocean. I've sailed the 7 seas 100 times and found something I like even more than me treasure. 'Tis the ocean, beautiful and clear. Right now, I'd be sailing over the Great Barrier Reef. It just shivers me timbers thinking of all the fish and coral below me. Wait, what's that floating by? A plastic bag? By Blackbeard's eye patch, that's disgusting. Why did you know that many of these things come from folks throwing them carelessly on the ground? It'd be true. Lend us a hand by always recycling and disposing of your trash properly. Boys, get the plank ready. Somebody's got to dive in and get that bag. Any volunteers? All right, fine. I'll do it myself. Cannonball! Find out what you can do to help keep the oceans healthy at keepoceansclean.org. Brought to you by the Keep Oceans Clean Alliance and the Ad Council.
Progressives across the country are taking action, from Madison, Wisconsin to the Occupy movement. And now, Washington, D.C.'s newest talk radio station, WeAct Radio. In this election year, Progressive Talk returns to our nation's capital. WeAct Radio is proud to showcase the biggest names in Progressive Talk Radio, including Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Bill Press, Ed Schultz, Sam Cedar, and original live shows from our Anacostia studios. Take Action News with David Schuster, Speak Easy with Kymone Freeman and Ron Pinchback, and The Inside Scoop with Mark Levine. Available on your radio dial and on the web at WeActRadio.com. That's WeAct Radio, WPWC 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. Truth is our product.
Yes, we can.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano. And still in studio with us is Kymone Freeman, who we're very honored to have, founder, program director, and co-owner of WeAct Radio, host of Speakeasy with Kymone Freeman and Ron Pinchback.
Progressive Radio in D.C.
Talking
Woo-hoo.
Left.
Talking Left. Yes. So how is it that you, obviously we now know how you met Alex Lawson. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago as well.
Yeah, crazy guy.
How is it that you decided to get together with him and buy a radio studio?
Well, first and foremost, Alex is a great guy. And when I realized, working with him with the AIDS mobilizations during our years together at the festival, I wrote a screenplay about a conflict over water set in the future. And I was starting to shoot it. I was still young and bold enough to think I could produce the film on my own. And I told him I was having trouble finding a rooftop. He said, "Hey, I got a rooftop." I said, "Okay, great." So so he gave me the site to use, and then he vacates his apartment. I bring all these film people in, and crews, and camera, and actors, and makeup people, and da-da-da. And he just gives me the keys to his apartment, beers in the refrigerator, lock up when you're gone, And I was like, wow. I mean, I just fell in love with the guy because I said, this is the type, this is the type of, authenticity I've been looking for. And because oftentimes we are so guarded with each other, we're never going to get anywhere if we don't let our guards down, because we got to trust somebody, we got to work with somebody. And this guy was, an open book. And so I was excited about working with him on some endeavor. We knew we was going to do something together at some point. We thought it was just going to be the festival. But it wasn't until the radio station fell in my lap. I knew about the signal. It became available. How it came about was indirectly, Congressman John Conyers from Detroit had sponsored a bill for the Performance Arts Act. It simply said that artists who perform songs should be paid for the song, just like the publishers of those songs were paid whenever it's played. Well, Kathy Hughes, who was kind of like the Black Clear Channel in America, was adamantly opposed to that, and she tried to categorize it as if this was an attack on black radio, and I felt that she was being disingenuous since there was no qualitative difference between the garbage she was pushing and the garbage that the corporations were pushing. So we put together a panel discussion talking about changing black radio, and out of that discussion, one of the attendees made me aware of the 1480 signal becoming available, and through the growth pains of trying to bring that on board, I told Alex about it, and lo and behold, it had been his dream to run a radio station. At the time, he was still at Media Matters. Now he's executive director at
Social
Security Works. And so just the sun and stars and planetary alignment was made because we was in the right place at the right time, and we had the kinetic energy to make it happen.
That's an amazing story.
That's a short version.
I'm sure, but it's really awesome what you guys are doing there.
Yeah.
Getting local shows that don't have the opportunity, that don't have a huge company behind them, syndicating them to 1,000 stations, putting people in touch with their communities.
Absolutely, and taking ownership of it.
Absolutely,
and telling their stories. With bringing Dave Schuster on, Emmy Award-winning journalist of his magnitude, to take us under his wing and pretty much provide the validation that we needed to be taken seriously, got us out the box running. He's been syndicated in 6 cities now, and we just shy of 9 months of broadcasting, and he's in 6 cities in 9 months. I think that's incredible. And then we juxtapose, young voices such as mine are next to his, and voices like you guys. And this is what it's about. That's what democracy should be about. It's not just about the elite. It's also about the people, and that the people don't hear their stories reflected in their media, then they need to start telling their own stories.
Absolutely. One of the common complaints we hear on the left is that the media didn't cover it. The media didn't pick up a story, or didn't portray values that a lot of the individual people listening actually have and actually care about. And by, having that local station where it's not impossible to come in and speak with a host, it's not impossible to express how you feel about a particular broadcast. It's accessible, and I think it's something lacking in a lot of markets.
With 6 or 7 corporations controlling everything we see here and read in this country, I think that the time of the media didn't cover it has become outdated, because we know what we're working with, and we've also been given the tools of technology that can really level the playing field a bit, because with the power of social media and these tools we have available to us, from everyone has a phone, which is a social media tool, a camera, a video camera, all in the same. I mean, almost everyone is armed with that. The technology has changed it, so police are now barred, at least in D.C., from preventing you from recording them. Just by the sheer number of people who have these devices in their hands. It used to be illegal for you to do that, and it was confiscated, but now everyone has one, and they just don't have the manpower to police such a thing. So we all have the opportunity to tell our stories. You can take the video, you can post it, and get it out here, and thousands of people can see it, if not more. I think that we just need to look ourselves in the mirror and realize that we now have to do the work. If you want to tell your story, you need to tell your story. Now, if you can no longer be upset that you didn't hear your story told when you have the opportunity to do so. And the world is waiting to hear it. The world is waiting to hear it. The world is waiting to hear a different perspective instead of the garbage that's been shoved down our throat. I don't want to put too much credibility on Clint Eastwood and what he had to say, but what he did was a beautiful thing. He went off the reservation. It was unscripted.
Yeah.
I think that something needs to be said about that.
Well, and obviously people watching, I mean, granted, I'm sure comedians and people who are just, adamantly opposed to anything Republican are included in this number, but he polled higher as far as being the highlight of the Republican convention.
He stole the show.
Yeah, than Romney's speech itself.
He stole the show, and it was very entertaining, by the way. But I disagree with one of my elders, Bill Press, who was the first guy who took a meeting with us when we were still talking about getting this radio station. So shout out to Bill Press. It's a great encouragement, and definitely one of the guys that I aspire to be like. But I disagree with something he said this morning on Schuster's coverage at the DNC. And he was saying that, because they was asking, what is the surprise is going to be at the DNC? Is it going, hint, hint, what's the surprise going to be here? And he said, I hope there's no surprises and that everyone sticks to the script. And I'm like, no, that's the problem. All this is scripted. All this is like animated cartoon stuff, and we need to have people speaking in their authentic voices and not. I forget this movie, but Matt Damon was in it, and I can't remember the name. I wish I could remember the name of the movie, but he goes on how a consultant was paid to determine the amount of scuffs that should be on the person's shoes. Like if it's too scuffed, you will alienate the bankers that you need the money from. And if it's too polished, then you alienate the working guy. So you got to have a complete balance between the scuff and shine.
You mean as far as
shoes.
politicians?
That's right, for politicians. And I thought there was a way opener in the thinking and what goes on. A yellow tie means this, and a red tie symbolizes that, and a blue tie is this. You know, he went into it. I wish I could remember the name of the movie, but he said they spent $7,000 on a consultant to tell them the proper amount of scuff on a shoe, and he holds the shoe up. That's what our politics are. When you stick to the script, that's what you're going to get. And we need people, like that speech he made in that film, to go off the reservation and speak from the heart at some point in time, whereas they try to minimize that. Remember the guy, what was it? I can't remember his name. Maybe I need to take some of Tom Hartman's medicine pills. But when he went, rah, you know, and Howard Dean. Howard Dean, when he did the rah thing, then all of a sudden he was demonized and his emotions. Yeah,
well,
that's what I'm talking about.
You even see, and I'm sure we can find a million comparisons to this, but like Joe Biden, he's constantly criticized for what people say are gaffes or speaking out a statement. And granted, some of the things he say might not poll well or might not react, might not get the best reaction, but he's saying unscripted, off-the-cuff stuff, and I think that's why a lot of people are able to connect with him.
Do you remember speaking with Kathleen Schaefer a few weeks ago? Talking about leadership, and what was the most important thing she pointed out? It was being authentic.
Authentic. How are you going to be authentic and sticking to the script?
I mean, Mitt Romney is just this side of CGI. I mean, the guy is computer. he is animated. I mean, the guy is not for real anyway. He is. It used to be puppet strings. Now he's just computerized.
That's
absolutely.
I like that analogy. I think I'm going to use that from now on. Just this side of CGI.
Yeah. But I don't want to hear nothing about no gaffes and goose and all that. If they can stomach 8 years of George Bush, then everything is all off the table. I mean, really.
Yeah, at least everybody speaking, even on the right, can form a coherent sentence.
Absolutely.
That's an improvement, at least in the political sphere.
And I would throw my well-balanced scuffed shoes at him. Yes, accurately.
That's hilarious. So, did we miss Elizabeth Warren? Did she come on at all? Those teases over there at the Democratic National Convention.
What's even worse is you can't actually find the schedule until the day of, and the schedule obviously is subject to a prime time.
Yes, because Barney Frank was supposed to be on, and apparently the chat room says he was a no-show.
I doubt he was a no-show.
I about to say, I doubt that.
Yeah, well, he didn't give a speech. Maybe they're saving it for tomorrow.
I have to say that I saw him at some point on some television show yesterday, MSNBC. Yeah, they all kind of blurred together yesterday, but yeah, he's around. I have heard a lot of complaints that moving around that center is very difficult because of the amount of security.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
People have been getting caught. I mean, I know that Tina talked about that a little bit, but a lot of the people that I've been talking with down there in terms of setting things up for another job I do, you're getting lost because it's kind of like when you're driving down the road and you have a detour and you don't know your way around that part of town.
Well, you have to love the chat room because they just informed me Warren is scheduled for 10 p.m. Eastern and Barney Frank is rescheduled for 10:59.
There you go.
I love the chat room.
10:59.
They know everything.
Do they mean 9:59?
Brokehammer in the chat says 10:59. I'm going to go with Brokehammer's opinion.
All right, we should take a break.
Yes, we'll go ahead and run to a break. Kymone, thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
It was an honor.
All right. My pleasure.
Kymone Freeman, everybody. Definitely go and check out KymoneFreeman.com. Follow him on Twitter at Gorilla Artist. And listen to his show on WeAct Radio. It's pretty damn good. We'll be right back here on Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano.
Talking Left.
See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Ooh, I gotta say, that was fantastic.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
While Representative Todd Aiken's pseudoscientific Tommy Rod about legitimate rape has surged him into the lead for the title of Dottiest and Most Dangerous Political Nut of the Year, never count out us Texans in any hard nut contest. Our state's frontrunner had been Ted Cruz, currently the GOP candidate for U.S. Senate, who's deeply concerned that the United Nations is plotting to take over America's golf courses. Suddenly, however, a dark horse from Lubbock has shot into the lead. Perhaps suffering from the heat of August, County Judge Tom Head shocked and delighted the right-wingosphere by proving that it's actually humanly possible to get even nuttier about President Obama than simply ranting that he's a Kenyan Muslim socialist. I'll let Judge Head speak for himself. In this political climate, he asked during a TV interview, what is the worst thing that could happen? Obama gets back in the White House, he answered to his own question. Plunging deeper into paranoid darkness, Head then announced that a re-elected Obama is, quote, going to try to hand over the sovereignty of the United States to the UN. And that, warned the judge, will lead to the worst. Civil unrest, civil disobedience, civil war maybe. We're talking Lexington, Concord, take up arms and get rid of the guy. Now what's going to happen if we do that? Asked Head as he built to his logical conclusion. Obama's going to send in UN troops. He told Lubbock'ians not to worry, though, for he was pushing for a local tax increase to give him more police and weaponry to combat Obama's diabolical UN takeover scheme. I don't want 'em in Lubbock County, Head said, so I'm going to stand in front of their armored personnel carrier and say, you're not coming in here. This is Jim Hightower saying, I think we can all join in thanking Judge Head for showing America just what he's made of. A sack of nuts and a bucket of silly putty.
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this, you can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. Nowhere in the United States has a lower union density than the South. Of the southern states, North Carolina, where the Democratic National Convention is being held this week, has the lowest union density of them all at 2%. At Wedgwood Baptist Church across town from the convention in Charlotte, about 100 workers gathered to express solidarity in the southern struggle and an independent presence at the Democratic National Convention. Clarence Thomas is on the ILWU Local 10 Executive Board.
Solidarity is not an empty slogan. It should cost us something when we express solidarity. With respect to my own local, in 1934, we shut down all of the ports on the West Coast for the right for workers to have a hiring hall. We could not have won that struggle without the black community.
Unite Here, Local 23 President Lisa Klein.
These are some billion-dollar companies we're dealing with. And some of these workers down here are being paid some wages at $7 something an hour. How do they make it? I don't know. I honestly don't know. So we're dealing with wage issues and workers that are fired and not being replaced and worker overload.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Is anybody else in here mad? Are we going to take it anymore? I don't think so.
UE Local 170 President Donna Morgan. Morgan says her union has been working actively to build solidarity in all sectors.
We've worked hard to try to bring all groups of people in. Right now we're supporting a aluminum plant in Ravenswood, which is out on strike.
Organized labor is most closely tied to the Democrats. Many unions are holding caucuses with members in the convention hall. AFL-CIO Executive Vice President Arlene Holt Baker.
Without strong labor unions, we will not and cannot have a strong democracy. So we'll make sure this week that our democracy continues to move and that it is a democracy and a platform of shared prosperity. There is only one person who will be president of the United States that will ensure that that happens, and that's President Barack Obama.
The ILA represents East Coast dock workers fighting for a fair contract that preserves jobs. Ken Riley of ILA Local 1422 says a strike is possible unless a fair labor contract is reached by September 30th.
There's a slogan that says, if provoked, we will strike. We are only asking for what's good for our members, the benefit, improvement. We've been concessionary mode for the last 20 years.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Be a reader, tutor or mentor, give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge now at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Want to give an amazing shout out to our great guests tonight. Who you just saw for a very good portion of an hour there was Kymone Freeman, founder, program director, and co-owner of Newton Media Group and WeAct Radio, 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. He hosts Speakeasy with Kymone Freeman and Rob Pinchback live 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on WeAct. You can check out the show at WeActRadio.com, and you can check out all things Kymone at KymoneFreeman.com.
It's Freeman, not Freeman.
Well, that's what he has on his website, Freeman. Really? So hopefully I haven't posted it wrong earlier. Oh, no. First, big thanks to Mike Papantonio. It was an honor to speak with him. Make sure to let him know how much you appreciate all his fine work at Ring of Fire Radio on Twitter, and listen to his great show with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Sam Cedar live 3 to 6 p.m. Saturdays, and rebroadcast just about every day of the week. You can find a station near you at ringofireradio.com/station. Tina Dupuy, editor-in-chief of The Contributor, the great new blog site that actually pays you to contribute. Go over and check out all their great articles and perhaps submit one and you could earn a few bucks. Thecontributor.com, and thank Tina on Twitter at Tina Dupuy, D-U-P-U-Y.
It is Freeman.
Okay, well, maybe I somehow added a D into his website.
Yeah.
Mikel Weisser, MikelWeisser, michaelweisser.org, and Mikel Weisser on Twitter. Watch him closely for the next few days to see if he becomes the official candidate for Congress in Arizona's 4th District.
The work will have just begun.
Yes, absolutely, but we wish him the best of luck. He's a great guy, and he definitely deserves to fight for the voters in his district. I get the distinct
feeling whether he gets the nomination or not, he will keep fighting.
I get the distinct impression
that he's done it a long time before, and he'll do it a long time after, and I'm glad he's on our side.
We want to thank our great stations, SoFlo Radio, Progressive Blend Radio, Talk Radio 1, and, of course, our Home Sweet Home Radio or Not, where our lovely landlady, Nicole Sandler, hosts her own show, The Nicole Sandler Show, Monday through Thursday, 10 to noon Eastern. And all the night lineup, Mondays, Filter Free Radio, 7 p.m. with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott. Tuesdays and Fridays, Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick and the whole amazing crew that he has. Thursdays is Nurse Talk, and Sundays is The More Me Show. There's a million with DJ Downtown. There's a million other shows I'm forgetting right now. Shannon Files and Adam's show on Saturdays at 1 o'clock. Tim Cormall's show.
Alice.
Check them out. Check them all. There's just too many.
I agree.
There's
not enough.
We did not put up our list of sites on TalkingLeft.com.
I do have the email from
yes,
from Victor.
We will do that this weekend. We forgot, but
we did go out of town.
Yes, but thank you to everybody for listening. You guys are the reasons we do what we do. If you weren't here paying attention to us, we wouldn't be talking. So thanks so much, and we will see you next week. Go enjoy the convention. Listen to the big dog. We'll be back next Wednesday. Have a good night.